system of American series in the Rebirth of America. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, Rebirth of America, Texas 1989. At night, the lights were on. In an American-style single-family villa, Owen lay on the bed in a daze, thinking about his own thoughts. He had been in this world for 3 days. After integrating the memories of his original body, he was still a little dazed. "Children, dinner is ready. Come down quickly." A gentle female voice came from downstairs. "I'm coming, Mom." 2 girls responded, one after another, and then Owen's door was pushed open. A white girl of 17 or 18 years old walked in carelessly and shouted to Owen, "Owen, it's time to eat, but you're still in a daze here. Hey, you look depressed. Did you get rejected for your confession? I tell you, don't be discouraged, sister." A 15 or 16-year-old girl following closely behind her frowned and interrupted her chattering. Okay. The elder sister shrugged her shoulders, stopped with an unsatisfied look, stretched out her hand to pull Owen up from the bed, and pulled him downstairs. Downstairs in the living room, a middle-aged man in his 40s was sitting on the sofa watching TV. He smiled at the 3 people coming downstairs and said, "Children, come and sit down. Dad, X 2 inches Uncle Jack." Owen called out, and then called out to the middle-aged woman, who came from the kitchen with a plate of food, "Aunt Lisa." "Well, little Owen, come and sit down. Try the Chinese food I made today to see if it suits your appetite." The hostess Lisa looked at Owen lovingly and placed a portion of Kung Pao chicken in front of him. "Wow, Mom, you are so partial." The eldest daughter Elizabeth Sampson shouted in a funny way, "If you don't know, you would think that Bianca and I were picked up, and Owen is your biological child." Elizabeth. Jack Sampson, the head of the family, reminded them. Although everyone knew that Elizabeth was joking, it was better not to mention such a topic. "Thank you, Aunt Lisa." Owen felt warm in his heart and said with sincere gratitude. After 3 days of memory integration, he has learned everything about his previous life. His name is Owen Lee. He is 12 years old, a Chinese American. His parents died in a car accident when he was 10 years old. He was adopted by his mother's friend Lisa Sampson, who had no relatives. Lisa Sampson was a housewife and part-time writer. She was gentle and had a literary temperament because of her part-time job. She treated Owen as her own son. Because Owen lost his parents at a young age and was 4 years younger than the 16-year-old daughter Anka Sampson, she cared for him more than her 2 biological daughters. Jack Sampson was a dentist with a typical middle-class profession and the pillar of the family. He had a close relationship with Lisa and was also good to Owen. Elizabeth Sampson, the eldest daughter, is 17 years old and in the 11th grade of high school. She is a happy poor student. Whenever Lisa has a headache about her studies, she will say with confidence, "As long as it is possible, why work so hard? I don't have any great ambitions in the future. It would be great if I could be like my mother and find a good man like my father and live a happy life, isn't it?" Faced with Elizabeth's attitude of not fearing boiling water, Jack smiled and nodded. Lisa was speechless. Although she wanted Elizabeth to be more ambitious, she had to admit in her heart that such a plan was indeed good. Bianca Sampson, the youngest daughter, is 16 years old and in the 10th grade of high school. She is a typical good girl. She does whatever her parents say. She studies very hard and has the reputation of being a top student. Because of Jack's career, she is very interested in medicine and plans to be a real doctor in the future. There is a saying, dentists are not real doctors. As a dentist, although the income is not bad, the status is much worse than that of doctors in the hospital, so Jack is very pleased about this. "So, kids, how was your day?" The family sat at the dining table and began to eat. Jack, the head of the family, began his evening chat to learn about the children's dynamics and enhance their relationship. Elizabeth. "It was a boring day." Elizabeth concluded with one sentence and ended the chat. Jack and Lisa looked at each other, shook their heads helplessly, and looked at their good girl again, and asked with a smile on their faces, "Bianca, How about you? A normal day. Bianca replied obediently. However, there is an interesting child in school. He is only 9 years old, but he is already in the 9th grade of high school. He is in the same class as his brother. What's more interesting is that this child always points out other people's problems in a serious manner. Even the teachers are scared of him. I heard that he even went to the principal. Oh, it seems that he is a young genius. Lisa said with interest. If you have the chance, you can communicate more with him. Elizabeth suddenly laughed out loud, and when everyone looked over, she quickly swallowed the beef in her mouth and said with a giggle, I know this kid, Mom. If you let Bianca be friends with him, he will definitely welcome it. Lisa was stunned. Oh, is there any problem? Speaking of this, I want to laugh. Elizabeth smiled and said, this kid is too smart and too young. He doesn't fit in at all. He has no friends at school, and even his brother avoids him. So, he recently borrowed a book on how to make friends from the library. Whenever he meets someone at school, he strikes up a conversation. His serious way of chatting up people is simply laughable. What's his name? Owen asked with an idea in his mind. Elizabeth was surprised and asked, Owen, you don't have any friends either. Do you want to make friends with him? I advise you to forget about it. This kid is a weird genius. Although he is younger than you, he is very knowledgeable. Even the teachers are under great pressure. They complain all the time and want to ask him not to come to class for fear that he will ask them in public and they will not be able to answer. That would be too embarrassing. Such a genius. Ordinary people have no topic to talk about. I know. Owen understood Elizabeth's kindness, but still asked eagerly, what's his name? Sheldon Lee Cooper. Before Elizabeth spoke, Bianca had already reported the other party's name. Sure enough, Owen suddenly realized and thought to himself, this world has the famous Sheldon. Now it is 1989, and it is probably the world of the young Sheldon in the prequel of The Big Bang Theory. Haha, it is also a blessing to be able to see this legendary character with my own eyes. Owen, are you okay? Lisa's voice interrupted Owen's thoughts. Oh, nothing. Owen covered up and said, I'm just curious. Bianca, can you take me to see this Sheldon Lee Cooper tomorrow? Bianca gave Owen a strange look and nodded. Okay. Chapter 2 American TV series system. The next day. Public middle school. During lunch break, Owen and Bianca sat together and ate lunch. Look, there he is. Bianca looked around uncomfortably, and when she saw a small figure, she immediately stood up and pointed it to Owen. Seeing that Owen saw it, she hurriedly said, I'll go first. Oh, okay. Owen's eyes were already locked on the familiar figure. He understood Bianca's discomfort. He was 4 years younger than Bianca, and he was a boy. If they were mixed together during school, a good girl like Bianca would definitely be laughed at by her peers for being uncool. School library 9-year-old Sheldon returned the book about making friends with a look of disappointment because the skills on it did not work for him. He happened to meet Tan, a Vietnamese high school student who also had no friends. The two talked for a while and found that they were both very interested in rockets, but neither of them realized that they could be friends. After chatting for a while, they casually said goodbye. Sheldon, who had just walked out of the door, suddenly turned around, pushed the door open, walked to Tan's side, and suggested, if you haven't found a friend yet, then I have good news. We can be friends. Okay. Tan was stunned, and then agreed. At this time, Owen came over. Little Sheldon was surprised. You want to be friends with me? Owen smiled. Yes, isn't it better to have more friends? Little Sheldon tilted his head and thought about it. His mother's expectant eyes flashed in his mind, and he nodded. Okay. Oh my god, I made 2 friends at once. Ding. Owen just came here to join in the fun because of his love for the comedy characters in his previous life. Unexpectedly, when little Sheldon nodded and agreed, a voice suddenly appeared in his mind. With the recognition of the lucky protagonist, the American drama system is officially launched. The golden finger is online. Owen was ecstatic and hurried to check, only to see a panel appear out of thin air in his consciousness. Name: American drama system. Owner: Owen Lee. Existence points: 88 points, 0 points for positive poll, 500 points for negative poll, positive poll, Positive pole exists due to friendship. Negative pole exists due to various negative emotions. The collision of positive pole points and negative pole points produces existence points, which is equivalent to lifespan. 1 point equals 1 year. And 1 point is consumed every year. Points can be exchanged for personal attribute points such as intelligence, strength, speed, endurance, energy release, and combat skills. The specific exchange ratio depends on the rarity of personal attributes. Driver card. 0. Driver because of the goddess. Diddy driver exclusive card. The key to open the specific skill list. The specific exchange ratio depends on the rarity of the skills. Intelligence. LV3. 1. Dull. 2. Normal. 3. Knowledgeable. 4. Talented. 5. Genius. 6. Super genius. 7. Know-it-all. Strength. LV2. 1. Weaker. 2. Normal. 3. Limit of ordinary people. 4. Supernormal 25 tons. 5. Supernormal 75 tons. 6. Supernormal 100 tons. 7. Difficult to calculate. Speed. LV2. 1. Slow. 2. Normal. 3. Supernormal 700 km per hour. 4. Speed of sound. 5. Supersonic. 6. Speed of light. 7. Warp speed. Endurance. LV2 plus. 1. Weaker. 2. Normal. 3. Enhanced. 4. Renewable. 5. Bulletproof. 6. Supernormal. 7. Almost immortal. Energy release. LV1. 1. Cannot be released. 2. Release on contact. 3. Short-term short-distance single release. 4. Medium-term medium-distance single release. 5. Long-term long-distance single release. 6. Long-term long-distance multiple release. 7. Almost unlimited. Release at will. Combat skills. LV1. 1. Not good at. 2. Average. 3. Trained. 4. Experienced fighter. 5. Proficient in one combat skill. 6. Proficient in multiple combat skills. 7. Proficient in all combat skills. Specific skill list, not yet opened, opened randomly, and can be exchanged by spending existence points and driver cards. System. After saying goodbye to Sheldon and Tan, Owen began to fumble with his gold finger and tried to call the American TV system with his consciousness. American TV series system. Master, please give me your orders. What's going on? Owen asked as usual. What are your origins? Why did you choose me? Do you have any mandatory tasks that will be eliminated if you fail to complete them? American TV series system. There is no relevant information in the database, and the origin is mysterious and cannot be verified, but it can be confirmed that the system exists because of the master. The master has all the authority of the system, and there is no mandatory elimination task. Owen breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. This existence point is easy to understand. What's the matter with the positive and negative poles? American TV series system. The world that the master is reborn in now is based on the Big Bang Theory, and it is a positive pole universe that integrates dozens of European and American urban comedy American dramas and movies, just like the anode and the yin and yang of Teikai. But the solitary yin cannot grow, and the solitary yang cannot be born. Simply obtaining the positive pole point cannot be converted into an existence point or lifespan. Only when the yin and yang are in harmony, and the positive and negative poles collide to produce a big explosion, can the existence point that can pass through the multiverse be born. So that's it. Owen suddenly realized, and then wondered, then why do I have 500 negative pole points now? American TV series system. Master, did you write a novel in your previous life? Yes. Owen nodded and said, at the beginning, I was so short of books that I was excited and started reading a book. I wanted to step on the great masters and beat the 5 whites, but I didn't expect that ideals are full and reality is very skinny. I gave up after writing tens of thousands of words and returned to the ranks of readers. Could it be related to this? Yes. American TV series system. The reader's resentment has accumulated by 500 points, which is equivalent to borrowing another 500 years from heaven for you, but that is a curse for you to suffer in a negative world like hell. Ahem. Owen laughed dryly. No way, I'm just a novice, and few people read the few words I wrote. Where does so much resentment come from? American TV series system. As an old reader, you should know this. Owen's mouth twitched, and he changed the subject uncomfortably. System. How can I increase my existence points? American TV series system. When 500 negative points are used up, you can open negative universes such as Marvel and DC, travel through them to complete designated tasks, and gain negative points, which can be converted into existence points by colliding the positive points accumulated in the positive universe. Chapter 3 Garbled Language. Ring. Outside an American-style single-family villa, Owen greeted Tan and rang the doorbell. This was the second night after getting the American TV system. Ever since Sheldon's mother Mary Cooper learned that her only little son had made friends, 2 at a time, she excitedly invited Owen and the others to come over as guests. They are here. Everyone stay calm. This is just an ordinary day, an ordinary dinner. A woman's suppressed and excited voice came from inside the house. Can I eat in front of the TV? A little girl's voice sounded. No, Sheldon has guests today. We have to entertain them warmly. Fuck. I know what fuck means. Little girl, if there were no guests today, I would definitely teach you a lesson. The woman's roar was very penetrating, and Tan shook her body in fear, but Owen smiled knowingly. Creak. The door opened, and a middle-aged white woman dressed in a formal dress came into view. She even wore a necklace on her neck that she would only wear for important occasions. It was obviously not an ordinary dinner, as she said. She leaned against the door, bowed slightly, and greeted them warmly. Welcome. That kind smile and gentle tone made it difficult for Tan to connect the previous roar with the other party. He couldn't help but be a little dazed. Owen stepped forward and greeted with a smile. Good evening, Mrs. Cooper. I'm Owen Lee, Sheldon's friend. Hello, Owen. Mary Cooper saw that Owen was young, but had a mature temperament, and was much more suitable to be a friend of her precious son than Tan, who was already a high school student. The smile on her face couldn't help but brighten a little. She reached out and shook hands with Owen, said hello to Tan, and pulled Owen into the house. Everyone sat down at a rectangular dining table. A fat man sat at the narrow side of the square dining table. He was Sheldon's father, George Cooper. There were 3 chairs on the left side. Sheldon sat next to George, Owen next to Sheldon, and Tan next to Owen. Sitting opposite was Sheldon's twin sister Missy Cooper. Opposite George Cooper sat Sheldon's brother George Cooper, who was in high school. Mary was busy in the kitchen. Everyone sat there, staring at each other awkwardly. So, Tan, what country is your name? As the host, George could only take the initiative to speak and try to interrupt this awkward atmosphere. Vietnamese, sir. Tan said briefly. Oh, I remember. George nodded and said casually, I also stayed there when I was in the army. At this point, George paused, looked at Tan with some strangeness, and asked tentatively, isn't your mother called Jin Lee? No, sir. Tan was puzzled, but he was still brief, and didn't mean to say more. That's good, that's good. George breathed a sigh of relief and covered up. You know, it's a small country. Maybe. Mary, how long will it take to get better? It will be ready soon. Mary's voice came from the kitchen. Little Sheldon rolled his eyes and asked his doubts directly. Why do you think you know his mother? Owen couldn't help laughing when he heard this, and everyone's eyes were immediately focused on him. What are you laughing at? Little Sheldon was puzzled. Although he had a very high IQ, his EQ was pitifully low. After more than 20 years, he still couldn't figure out a lot of common sense in the eyes of ordinary people, not to mention that he was only 9 years old now. Nothing. Seeing George looking at him with an embarrassed face, Owen suppressed his smile and perfunctorily passed it over. He couldn't tell the other side soldiers about the ugly things they did abroad in front of the host. Dinner was barbecue chicken and beef brisket, which was a classic Texas flavor. After dinner, Owen and the others followed little Sheldon to the garage, where Sheldon's various train toys and his imaginative designs were placed. What is this? Owen pointed at an obviously modified toy oven. "Oh, this is an armed robot that I designed and modified," little Sheldon said with some nostalgia and disappointment. "It was originally used to drive Missy out of the room. Unfortunately, it's not big enough and powerful enough, and Missy is not afraid of it at all." Owen asked doubtfully, "You said this can move?" "Of course." Little Sheldon nodded as a matter of course, and then asked in confusion, "If it can't move, how can it be called my armed robot?" As he said that, he took a remote control and pressed it, and the toy oven really started to move. The modified and installed mechanical arm waved in a realistic manner, making a driving motion. "Amazing." Owen couldn't help but exclaimed. Even though he lived for more than 20 years in his previous life and went to college, it was still difficult to make such a DIY. Little Sheldon was only 9 years old, but he completed it so easily. How could it not be amazing? "It's nothing," little Sheldon said indifferently. "Here used to be a medical court machine that I modified from a non-working court scanner. Unfortunately, Missy complained to her mother, saying that the court machine burned her guinea pig Snowball to death, so her mother took it away. And here used to be the sonic death ray I made, which was specifically used to deal with blissbacks who often bullied me next door." "Hey, Sheldon, is this the rocket model you made?" Tan picked up the rocket model on the table, played with it, and discussed with Sheldon. "Did you use the method introduced in the book Liquid Rockets written by Professor Robert Goddard?" "Yes," little Sheldon introduced. "Originally, I was going to get some uranium and make an atomic engine, but that thing was too difficult to get, and the FBI was even called in for this." Tan laughed dryly. "It doesn't matter if you can't get it." Owen asked curiously, "Even if you have uranium, are you sure you can make an atomic engine? This seems to involve a nuclear fission reaction, right?" "Yes." Little Sheldon looked at Owen in confusion and asked back, "Any problem?" "It's very simple. You only need # and asterisk." Owen looked at little Sheldon with a blank face, listening to the professional terms that came out of his mouth, which he could not understand at all. Finally, it turned into garbled language, which made him feel powerful. He communicated with the American TV series system with his consciousness and asked, "System, are you sure I have to be friends with him?" "Yes, Master." American TV series system. This universe was created with the Big Bang Theory as its center. The only ones who can bring positive points to the Master are the 7 lucky protagonists in the Big Bang Theory. "Damn it," Owen complained. "It felt very funny when I was watching TV at that time, but when I really became friends with him, I found that it was not funny at all. He is only 9 years old now, but I can't understand a word he says. We have no common language. It's really embarrassing." Chapter 4. The Pseudo Student. 3 months later. It was time for a heart-to-heart talk at dinner. Lisa winked at Jack, and Jack put down his knife and fork, coughed lightly, and smiled at Owen, who looked a little dazed. "Owen, are you busy with your studies recently?" "No problem." Owen came back to his senses, and looked at Jack in surprise. "What's wrong, Uncle Jack?" "Oh, nothing," Jack said carefully. "I'm just worried that you're studying too hard. I came back late at night several times and saw that the light in your room was still on. I heard from your Aunt Lisa that you are studying hard. You are only in the 7th grade. You don't have to work so hard. Take care of your health." "Yes, Owen," Lisa agreed. "You are still young and you need enough sleep." That's right. Happy student Elizabeth muttered. "You are good at studying, and now you work harder than before. You have hurt me several times. Are you going to be a scientist in the future?" Owen heard what Elizabeth hadn't finished saying. Elizabeth, who was already 17 years old, was like most high school girls in America, trying every means to attend various night parties. Owen was studying hard late at night, attracting the attention of Lisa and Jack, and making it more difficult for Elizabeth to sneak out at night. Elizabeth took the opportunity to complain slightly, which was very restrained. "You know, in America, which claims to be feminist, girls sometimes play more crazily than boys. It is a very deadly thing for young girls to have unbalanced hormones." "Yes." Owen nodded affirmatively. "I'm indeed going to be a scientist in the future, or to be more precise, I'm going to be a mathematician in the future." "Are you serious?" Elizabeth was stunned. She just said it casually, and she didn't expect Owen to really think so. "Is it related to Sheldon Lee Cooper?" Bianca said the key. Yeah. Owen did not deny it and smiled. I didn't think so before, but since I became friends with Sheldon, I found that science is so interesting, and the ocean of knowledge is intoxicating. Are you kidding? Elizabeth widened her eyes and shouted in disbelief. I thought you couldn't stand that weird genius, but I didn't expect you to be influenced by him and have such a great interest in boring science. Oh, God, you won't have a girlfriend in the future. Owen's mouth was bitter, and he was speechless. Elizabeth. Lisa interrupted Elizabeth's complaints, turned her head to look at Owen, and said in a gentle voice, Owen, are you sure? Although being a scientist is a good ambition, but, Jack continued, but being a scientist is not that easy. Although Elizabeth's words are a bit excessive, they are not without reason. Those children who are determined to study science need to spend a lot of time studying. As a result, they often don't fit in with the group. At this point, seeing Bianca looking at him unhappily, Jack immediately thought of his baby daughter who was going to study medicine in the future. In terms of the time spent on studying, doctors are no worse than scientists. Throughout their entire careers, they can be said to be truly working and learning until they are old. So he quickly changed his words and smiled. Of course, these are not certain. There are also people who focus on learning, and their lives are equally exciting. It all depends on personal choice. Bianca then gave Jack a sweet smile. Ahem. Jack was relieved and coughed lightly, then continued, when it comes to the ambition of a scientist, the most important thing is not that you need to spend a lot of time studying, but that without sufficient intelligence, no matter how much time you invest, it won't be of much use. Owen, do you understand? I understand. Owen nodded sympathetically. How could he not understand? 3 months ago, he became friends with Sheldon, but as soon as they chatted, he felt the deep malice from the genius student. Sheldon's casual talk about rocket science, nuclear fission equations, etc., all sounded like garbled language to Owen, and he was confused and embarrassed throughout the whole process, which almost made Owen unable to stay. However, the friendship of Sheldon and others is the key for Owen to gain existence points, and in order to gain the friendship of Sheldon and others, and to further improve the friendship, a scientific student is a necessary condition. Borrowing Penny's words, when Bernadette obtained her doctorate, pointing at everyone and teasing Howard, you are a doctor, you are a doctor. Wow, Howard, you know a lot of doctors. Howard could only smile helplessly. Although he is a genius engineer who graduated from MIT and an astronaut who has been to space, his master's degree has been ridiculed by everyone from beginning to end, because 5 of the 7 people in the group are doctors. If Penny was not the protagonist's luck, she would be set as a woman obsessed with Leonard. With her poor academic performance, she and Sheldon and his group are completely different from each other. For example, Stuart, who runs a comic book store, has a bachelor's degree after all, and has been with Sheldon for more than 10 years. He tried every means to find a sense of existence, but in the end he failed to integrate into Sheldon's small group. He is above friends, but not good friends. To borrow Sheldon's words of disdain, Stuart's aura is not compatible with ours. Why not? Because Stuart is not a scientist, and there is no way to integrate into the group with the help of his girlfriend like Penny. The only way may be to pair up with single dog Rajesh. It seems that the two really have a vague trial. If Owen doesn't want to follow Stuart's old path, the only choice is to do his best to become a scientist. For ordinary people, this is definitely an impossible task, because intelligence is a talent that is basically determined at birth. Fortunately, Owen has an American TV system, which can improve attribute points by Krypton life. After taking stock of his situation, Owen naturally spent 50 existence points to improve his intelligence from LV3 knowledge to LV4 talent. It's not that Owen doesn't want to raise his intelligence to the genius level 5 at once, but he really doesn't have that much life to consume. To raise it to level 5, he needs to consume 50 existence points, and to raise it to level 5 again, he needs to consume another 50 existence points. In this way, to raise from level 3 to level 5 plus like Sheldon, Owen needs to consume 200 points, and now Owen only has 88 points in total. After deducting 50 points from these 88 points, Owen's points are only 38 points. If there is no subsequent supplement, Owen can only live for 38 years. In this case, How can Owen not empathize with Jack's theory of talent supremacy? He has a level 4 talent intelligence that he has earned through Krypton life, and he can barely become a pseudo-academic master by studying hard. Chapter 5. Friendship can be overturned at any time. At the entrance of the public middle school, Owen, Mrs. Cooper, where's Sheldon? When Owen rode over, just as he was about to go in, he was stopped by Mary Cooper, who was waiting there. He looked around and didn't see Sheldon, so he couldn't help but feel a little strange. He went in. Mary looked worried and said carefully, Owen, you are Shelley's good friend, and you have always been mature and sensible. Recently, Shelley has been very close to a high school girl. She calls me at home at night and talks for more than an hour. You are talking about Libby, right? Owen's mouth twitched, and he secretly complained to the American TV system in his heart. When did Sheldon and I upgrade our friendship from friends to good friends? Why didn't you remind me? American TV system, there is no evidence that your friendship has been upgraded to the level of good friends. According to speculation, the good friends in the other party's mouth are a general term and do not meet the qualifications for system recognition. That's what I said. Just as Owen was laughing at himself in his heart, Mary nodded repeatedly. Yes, it's this girl Libby. You and Shelley are together every day. You should know something about Libby, you know. Although Shelley is in high school, she is only 9 years old. I understand, Mrs. Cooper. Owen smiled and comforted. Don't worry, Sheldon and Libby are fine. The reason why he chatted with Libby so happily is just because he has recently developed a strong interest in geology. It just so happens that Libby's future ambition is to become a geologist, and she is very knowledgeable about geology. Their communication is purely academic. I know. Mary murmured. Shelley is not little George. There is no need for me to worry. Little George Cooper is Sheldon's brother. Now he has entered adolescence, and the corners of his room are filled with all kinds of interesting magazines. Okay, you should go to class quickly. I'll go back first. Mary came back to her senses, forced a smile, and said goodbye to Owen. Seeing her forced smile, it was obvious that Owen's comfort did not have much effect. This is also normal. In Mary's heart, her beloved son Shelley should go to school to learn knowledge, and go home after school, to be her dear little baby. Now a woman suddenly appeared, and there was a sign of breaking their mother-son intimacy. If it were other mothers, they would probably be worried and unhappy. Goodbye, Mrs. Cooper. Lunchtime. The schedule of high schools in the United States is different from that on the other side of the ocean. They do not have morning and evening self-study. Classes start at 7 or 8 in the morning. There is only a short lunch break at noon, and then classes continue. School is over at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Because the time is short, most students eat in the school cafeteria. Of course, many parents will prepare lunch boxes for their children in advance, so that they can have a loving lunch. Students gather in 2s and 3s, eating lunch and chatting. At this time, the campus weirdos who have no friends will automatically stay away from the lively crowd and hide in an empty corner to eat lunch quietly. Sheldon was like this before, but recently his popularity has increased, and he has unknowingly gained 3 more friends around him. Campus library. 4 people sat at the table, eating and chatting. You mean, without geology, there would be no biological evolution? Charles Lyell told Charles Darwin that the age of the earth is much older than everyone thought, so Darwin had the courage to discover that all species have undergone billions of years of evolution. Well said. I can use this example to humiliate the pastor of the Sunday school. As usual, Sheldon asked questions and Libby answered his geological questions. As they were asking and answering, Owen and Tam were almost forgotten. Owen was happy with this. He ate quietly and thought about the math problems he encountered recently. Since he spent his existence points to upgrade his intelligence from LV3 to LV4, although he was not as talented as those LV5 geniuses, his learning progress was greatly improved, and he experienced an unprecedented sense of learning pleasure. Especially in mathematics. Owen was very interested in it in his previous life, but because of his limited talent, it degenerated and disappeared after he went to college, just like all his knowledge. Now he has picked it up again. Because of the improvement of his talent, mathematics is more handy, and he is almost obsessed with it. I don't know which is more beautiful, your mind or your eyes. Tan didn't have Owen's mentality. He looked at the Black Pearl Libby who was talking freely. The restlessness of youth made him, who could only be friends with Sheldon before, really couldn't help it. He interrupted with a look of lust and soul. Please, Tan, we are eating. Sheldon and Libby looked at Tan with disgust. Tan came back to his senses and smiled awkwardly. Do you know, this week, there is a space shuttle movie in the National Science Museum, and it is IMAX. Libby rolled her eyes at Tan, turned around and chatted with Sheldon again. The screen is very large, and there is also a very good geology exhibition. Sheldon frowned and said, it's in Houston, right? How do we get there? Libby shrugged and said, I'll drive. Tan reverted to his old ways and blurted out, count me in. I really want to go to the movie with you. Sheldon asked in surprise, don't you need to ask your parents? No. Tan said affirmatively. Luckily you're not my son. Sheldon complained and turned his head to look at Owen. Owen, what about you? I have something to do this week, so I can't go. Owen thought about the plot and shook his head to refuse. He had no interest in this, but Tan secretly gave Owen an approving look. After Sheldon went back, he told Mary about it. Mary was jealous and refused without hesitation. Sheldon was very angry about this. He waved the mop and vented his anger by cleaning the house. Mary was so distressed that she compromised and agreed to meet with Libby first. If she had no problem with the other party, she would agree to let Sheldon go with her. When Libby calmly met Mary's conditions, Mary reluctantly agreed, but Libby smiled knowingly. Mrs. Cooper, don't worry, I have many years of experience as a nanny. Be a nanny, be a nanny, be a nanny. The smile on Sheldon's face disappeared, and these 3 words kept echoing in his mind. He left a sentence and turned back to the room. Sorry, I don't feel well. You can go without waiting for me. He thought he and Libby were getting along on an equal footing, but he didn't expect Libby to still treat him as a child. This is absolutely unbearable. Monday lunchtime. There was no trace of Libby in the library. Owen smiled knowingly and asked, Sheldon, how was it to go to the movies with Libby and others on the weekend? I didn't go. Sheldon said arrogantly, it didn't feel interesting, and I now feel that geology is not a real science, it's more like a hobby. Collecting stones is really a bit childish. Tan, what about you? Owen looked at Tan again. Tan recalled the embarrassment of wanting to hug Libby in the cinema, but being rejected by Libby. He smiled to hide his feelings and said, I agree with Sheldon. I found that Libby was interested in me when we went to the cinema this time, but I still think it's better for us to be friends. It seems that we are back to being a trio of friends. Yes, that's right. Owen's words were echoed by the two. The boat of friendship can capsize at any time. Owen thought with amusement in his heart, and suddenly his eyelids jumped, and an ominous premonition came over him. He seemed to have forgotten something. Chapter 6 Graduation Season. Time flies, and the years pass by. In 1991, the high school graduation season arrived as expected. Bianca, look here. Lisa held a camera and walked around Bianca, who was wearing a bachelor's gown and a bachelor's hat, taking pictures of her daughter from all angles. In the United States, bachelor's gowns and bachelor's hats are not only worn by college graduates, but also by graduates of all stages, but the styles are slightly different. Bianca was also very happy, with a smile on her face. She stood on the lawn and posed in various poses according to Lisa's instructions. These will become the most beautiful memories of youth. Owen, go over there and stand with Bianca. I'll take a few photos of you. After Lisa filled a roll of film, she took out the spare film that had been prepared long ago from her handbag and saw Owen standing next to her and quickly directed, okay. Owen glanced at Bianca, who was always arrogant, and saw that she swept away the indifference and distance in the past, smiled and waved at him, and simply walked over. Get closer, Owen, you're too stiff. Bianca saw Owen standing straight beside her and heard Lisa's complaints. She put her hand on Owen's shoulder, exerted a little force, and hugged Owen over. She tilted her head and leaned against Owen, who was pulled sideways. The scene was frozen in Lisa's satisfied laughter. Very good, very good. Because they were adopted, and because of their introverted temperament, Owen and Bianca, who looked like a good girl, but was a little arrogant, had always been in a state of indifference. They were far less close than the happy student Elizabeth. Such an intimate scene had never happened before. Now that they suddenly saw each other in such a happy occasion, it was no wonder that Lisa cheered. Owen's body was tense, and Bianca moved too much. When she hugged him over, her grown body hit Owen's shoulder, which made Owen, who was about to go to high school, a little overwhelmed. European and American girls develop early, it's really no joke. Ha. He's still a pure little beast as expected. Bianca, who has officially become an adult and is about to enter college, has swept away her previous obedient and indifferent appearance. Sensing Owen's state, she rolled her eyes, put her ear close to Owen's, and teased jokingly, "Do you need your sister's help?" Owen suppressed the excitement in his heart, speechlessly looked at Bianca, whose style had changed drastically, and complained, "Do you think that after you get into college, you will soon be away from your parents and you can do whatever you want in the future?" Seeing that Owen was not as embarrassed as she expected, Bianca turned sideways, hugged Owen's arm tightly with both hands, twisted to find the correct posture for taking pictures, gave Lisa a sweet smile, and quietly tortured Owen. "Isn't it?" Hiss. Owen secretly took a breath of cold air. Lisa was taking pictures next to him, and he didn't dare to show any abnormality. He forced himself to suppress the ripples in his heart, and diverted his attention. "I'm afraid your hopes are dashed. I accidentally heard Uncle Jack and Aunt Lisa discussing that they might move to Chicago. First, Chicago is the third largest metropolis in the United States after New York and Los Angeles. It is much more prosperous than here, and Uncle Jack's business will be even better. Second, you are their beloved daughter, and you have been so hardworking that you were admitted to the University of Chicago Medical School. How can they bear to be so far away from you? Are you kidding?" Bianca's body suddenly froze. Before she could continue to ask, the two were hugged from behind. Elizabeth's head squeezed out from the middle and laughed. "My dear sister, congratulations on being admitted to the University of Chicago Medical School. So tell me, are you ready?" "Prepared for what?" Bianca asked subconsciously. 4 years of undergraduate study, 4 years of MD in medical school, 3 to 8 years of residency, and decades of professional medical career in the second half of your life. Elizabeth joked, "Your whole life will be spent in this. Isn't it exciting to think about it?" The smile on Bianca's face suddenly became less natural. "I have a friend over there, I'll go over first." Seeing this, Owen said hello and cleverly dodged first. "Hi, Sheldon, Tam." "Hi, Owen." Sheldon and Tam were also wearing bachelor's gowns and bachelor's hats. Yes, just like when Penny later lamented that her longest cohabitation relationship was as long as her high school career. Sheldon mocked her and said, "You went to high school for 4 years. In fact, the high school career of normal American students is indeed 4 years, from 9th grade to 12th grade, but for Sheldon, who skipped grades frequently and went to high school at the age of 9, 2 years was enough." Even as early as a year ago, Sheldon started asking his grandmother to drive him to college to attend classes, and this year he finally ended his high school career with Tan. Owen congratulated him. "Congratulations, you got into the University of Texas at Austin, which is the top public university." "Thank you." Tan's smile was very sincere, but Sheldon didn't smile much. He just heard him mutter, "I was originally going to Caltech, where the physics level is the best in the world, but it's a private research university. Even if there is a full scholarship, my family's finances don't allow me to go." "Sheldon, the University of Texas at Austin is not bad either." Owen comforted him. "On the one hand, it's close to home, and on the other hand, this university not only provides full scholarships, but also generous grants. With your ability, you will definitely be able to get it, and then you can use it to reduce the financial burden on your family." "Yes." Tan smiled sincerely and agreed. In Sheldon's words, his family situation would make people depressed if they talked about it, and the real heartbreak and tears would come to those who heard it. Now that he can go to a top public university with such a generous scholarship, he is absolutely satisfied. "My mother and others said so too," Sheldon said helplessly. In the United States, private schools are indeed much better than public schools, but the various expenses are far beyond imagination. Sheldon's family is not middle class at all, and they can't even afford private high schools, let alone expensive private universities. By the way, Owen, Tan asked, although you can't go to college right away like Sheldon with your grades, it's normal to skip to the 11th or even 12th grade. Indeed, you can. Owen raised his eyebrows at Tan and smiled meaningfully, but I want to experience a normal student life. You know, high school life is very exciting. What's exciting? Sheldon looked puzzled, but Tan understood in his heart. Thinking back to the time when he was closest to a girl in his life, it was the rejection of Libby. He sighed. You think too much. You're not a football player. For people like us, high school life is the same. It's not as exciting as you think. Chapter 7. The Real Academic Master is Romantic. Chicago 1993. Owen, your letter. During breakfast, Lisa handed Owen a letter with the postmark of the University of Texas at Austin. It's been 2 years, and you still write one letter every month. You and Sheldon have a really good relationship. Aunt Lisa, you know Sheldon is a genius. Owen took the letter and explained, I have a lot of questions to ask him. Besides, Sheldon is a person who likes homeostasis very much. Our correspondence has formed a homeostasis. If I stop writing letters one day, he will definitely jump up and down. Haha, what an interesting child. Lisa had also met Sheldon, and she was deeply impressed by Sheldon's speech and behavior that were very different from ordinary people. Haha, he is indeed interesting. Owen's mouth twitched, and he smiled in agreement. He opened the envelope and saw that, as expected, Sheldon easily solved the problem he encountered, and laughed at him as always, criticizing his slower and slower learning progress. 2 years ago, with Bianca's graduation, Owen moved to Chicago with Jack and Lisa. He was worried about how to maintain friendship with Sheldon, who was in college, and even had the idea of skipping grades from time to time. After all, Sheldon's friendship was the key to Owen's existence. But after being reminded by the American TV system, Owen suddenly realized that keeping enough distance from Sheldon at this stage would definitely be beneficial and harmless. First of all, Sheldon is still too young now, and his personality has not yet taken shape, and it fluctuates a lot. Just look at the Black Pearl Libby, who was inseparable from him at the beginning. If there is a disagreement, the friendship boat will overturn, and Sheldon, who likes geology, will be black on geology for life. There is also Tan, who went to the same university as Sheldon. If there is no accident, the friendship between the two will advance by leaps and bounds, and there is no doubt that they can be promoted to the category of good friends recognized by the American TV system. But then Sheldon went to California, but Tan chose to stay because he found a girlfriend in college. As a result, Sheldon ignored him for 20 years without Tan knowing, and put him on the blacklist sequence. It was not until later, when Tan's son was going to college and visited Caltech, that Leonard and others uncovered the truth about the two good friends not seeing each other for more than 20 years. Although Sheldon had been influenced and transformed by his friends at this time, and agreed to remove Tan from the blacklist and put him in the Texas Good Friends sequence, it was just talk. After more than 20 years of no contact, even the best of friends would become strangers. Secondly, Owen's existence is determined by the friendship of the 7 members of the Big Bang Theory. Although Sheldon is the most outstanding one among them, and often claims to be the key to friends playing together, the foundation of the 7 members is Leonard. If Leonard hadn't gone crazy, ignored all kinds of obvious warnings, and signed a roommate agreement with Sheldon, that would make him painful for life. Sheldon would probably have to die alone. This is not uncommon in the scientific community. Because of Leonard's tolerance, Howard and Rajesh, who like Leonard, suppressed their disgust for Sheldon and reluctantly played together. If it weren't for Amy's appearance and Leonard's help, Sheldon, who was seen as a psychopath by ordinary people, became more and more like a normal person. Even if they played together for more than 10 years, the relationship between Howard, Rajesh and Sheldon would never be sublimated. What would happen if Owen interrupted this process rashly? There is also a deduction for reference in the original plot. That is, Tan followed Sheldon to Caltech and became a roommate. Sheldon, who had a friend, didn't want to talk to Leonard, the vulgar man, and sent him away with just one sentence. If it were Owen, he knew the plot and could be friends with all 7 people, but he didn't have the strong endurance and luck of the protagonist like Leonard, and he had no ability to reunite the 7 people into the harmony in the original plot. If the 7 people were not formed, even if Owen tried his best, he could only develop the 7 people into good friends, and there was no way to take advantage of the special nature of the 7 people to go a step further and develop Sheldon and others into good friends. You know, the ratio provided by good friends is 100:1, while the ratio provided by good friends is 365:1. The lifespan that one person can provide to Owen in a year is 265 years different. Therefore, after comprehensive consideration, Owen put his mind at ease and just wrote a letter every month to keep in touch. He secretly made up his mind to use the 12 years of life provided by Sheldon every year to slowly improve his intelligence attributes. When his intelligence attributes are improved, he will definitely become famous in the scientific community. At that time, with Sheldon's personality, the other party will automatically regard Owen as a good friend without meeting. This is not a joke. Think about Hawking. How much sacrifice Sheldon made to meet him. After that, Hawking casually played a game with Sheldon on the internet. Sheldon excitedly declared to everyone, "Hawking is my good friend." Therefore, before the real plot of the Big Bang Theory begins, what Owen has to do is to become a top scientist and then intervene after Leonard and his group initially become a group. Presumably, with the nerdy attributes of Leonard and his group, the acceptance of a top scientist will be very high. These thoughts flashed through Owen's mind. After breakfast, he rode his bicycle to the public middle school and began his 11th grade school routine. After parking his bicycle, Owen followed the crowd to his personal locker in the corridor. After opening it, he took out the books for the course he was going to take in the morning, hugged them in his arms, and hurried to the classroom where the course teacher was. In the United States, high school students, like college students, do not have fixed classrooms. Students rush to the fixed classroom, where the teacher of the course is according to the course they choose. Because the break time is very short, the student's pace is always hurried. Is there any student who can answer this question? In the math class, the teacher looked around at the students and began to ask questions. Seeing that only Owen raised his hand, the teacher pointed at Owen and smiled and said, "Owen, you tell me." Okay, this question needs to be analyzed from the perspective of function equations and graphical properties. Owen stood up and talked freely. In America, students advocate showing off their talents, but there is no such thing as modesty, because the regular scores account for a large proportion of the college entrance examination results, and among the regular scores, classroom performance will also be directly reflected in the teacher's scoring. In a corner of the classroom, a white girl with a golden ponytail and a delicate and pure face bit her lip and looked at Owen with watery eyes as he talked freely. As the teacher applauded, the girl trembled all over, lay on the desk, panting and murmured, "Science is really intoxicating." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Tutorial Parabola. Ding ling ling. The bell rang. The teacher announced the end of get out of class, and the students left quickly, rushing to the classroom for the next class. "Hi, Owen." Owen was packing his books, and just as he was about to leave, he heard someone calling him. He turned around and saw a beautiful woman with a blushing face, looking at him with a smile. Hello, what's up? My name is Karen Jackson. You can call me Karen." The beautiful woman greeted enthusiastically. "You are so good at math. Can you teach me?" "Karen, are you sure?" Owen felt that Karen looked familiar, but he couldn't remember it for a while. In order to become a real academic master in the past few years, he has been very hard working. The reasons he used to perfunctorily deal with Sheldon and Tan have long been forgotten by him. Now he was suddenly approached by a beautiful woman, and he was really a little bit unbelievable. Of course. Karen smiled sweetly and said, "Come to my house after school this afternoon, okay? Please." As she spoke, she bowed and begged like a spoiled child. A touch of white suddenly bloomed in front of Owen's eyes, making Owen's ears hot and his heart beat fast. He blurted out, "Okay. Thank you." Karen thanked him, and when she saw Owen's burning eyes, the smile on her face became more intense. She took out the math book from Owen's arms without hesitation and wrote her home address and contact information on it with a pen. "I'll wait for you, you must come." When she left, she looked back and reminded him. The extreme purity on her face disappeared, and what filled Owen's eyes was full of charm. Out of gentlemanly demeanor, Owen had to salute slightly to show respect. The narration of the animal world magically sounded in Owen's ears at this moment. Looking at Karen's leaving figure, Owen murmured to himself, spring is really here, and the wonderful high school life is finally about to begin. After school in the afternoon, Owen wrote back, said hello to Lisa, and followed the address to Karen's door. He raised his hand and knocked on the door. "Who are you?" The door was opened a crack, and the face of a middle-aged white housewife appeared from behind the crack, looking up and down at Owen. "I'm Owen Lee, Karen's classmate, and I'm here to help Karen with her homework." Owen suppressed his surprise and said truthfully, "Oh, it's Karen's classmate." A smile appeared on the housewife's face. She took off the door chain, opened the door, and greeted, "Come in quickly, but take off your shoes first, and put them in a plastic bag." "Oh, okay." Owen was a little confused and followed the housewife's request. He walked into the house and heard the housewife shouting upstairs, "Karen, your classmate is here to see you. He said he wants to help you with your homework." "Got it." Karen agreed briskly. After a while, with the sound of footsteps coming downstairs, Karen in an orange jacket came down. Seeing Owen holding a plastic bag of shoes in his hand, she smiled apologetically, leaned close to Owen's ear and whispered, "My mother is a paranoid. She has contamination phobia and is always worried that someone will bring dust into the house." "Oh, so that's the case." Owen suddenly realized and accepted this explanation easily because he had an even more weird friend with severe misophonia, Sheldon. The other person washes his hands countless times a day and even wears gloves when shaking hands with his family. Compared with Sheldon, Karen's mother Sheila is just the same, each with its own merits. This way, Karen led Owen to the dining table outside the kitchen and sat down, placing books on the table. Karen's mother Sheila was in the kitchen, watching TV while preparing dinner. "Let's start. Do you have any questions?" Owen glanced at Sheila not far away, and then looked sideways at Karen beside him. The familiar feeling came over him again, as if he had seen this scene somewhere before. "I don't understand anything," Karen said pitifully. Her eyes and innocent face were extremely attractive. Ahem. Owen coughed lightly, took Karen's math book, flipped through it casually, and said thoughtfully, "In this case, let's start with the parabola. You see, the equation of the parabola is like this." After writing the equation of the parabola on the manuscript paper, Owen was just about to draw the graph of the parabola when he saw Karen biting her lip, sliding down from the chair, and skillfully crawling under the table covered by the tablecloth. "What are you doing?" Owen was shocked and stunned. "Science interests me." Karen's head appeared, smiled charmingly at Owen, and then crawled back in. "Oh, got." Owen was confused, but the sense of familiarity in his heart became stronger and stronger. Karen crawled out from under the table calmly. A flash of lightning flashed through his mind, and Owen finally remembered who Karen in front of him was. In his previous life, he had watched a TV series called Shameless, which was said to be the most explicit and unscrupulous. Isn't this the Karen in the TV series who had sex addiction, looked pure, but was actually unruly? He liked sitcoms like The Big Bang Theory, and had watched them from beginning to end no less than 7 or 8 times. As for Shameless, he only read through the Shameless plots with an attitude of condemnation and contempt, so he didn't recognize this classic supporting actress at the first time. Now, stimulated by the classic scene, Owen sagely finally realized that seeing the other party teasing him like this, he could not bear it. He couldn't bring shame to the Chinese. Beep, beep, a unique horn sound rang in Owen's mind. Chapter 9, Eternal Excess Gun. Beep beep. Master, you have successfully obtained a driver card. American TV series system. Feeling your strong national sentiment, the skill list is officially opened. Skill 1, Eternal Interference Gun. Interference fit under the reference hole, interference amount, and L and HB equals appearance, lower, decibel, dB. It requires 1 driver card and 50 existence points. Master, do you want to exchange it? Owen was overjoyed. He had learned mechanical tolerance fit in his previous life, so he still understood the interference fit of the reference hole. He just didn't know the specific effect, and it would cost 50 existence points. He quickly checked the attribute panel. Existence points. 88 plus 4 asterisk 1 2 50 4 equals 82 points. Negative pole. 500-4 asterisk 12 equals 452. Driver card. 1. Karen Jackson. Intelligence, LV4 strength, LV2 speed, LV2 endurance, LV2 plus energy release, LV1 combat skills, LV1 skill list, skill 1, eternal overshoot gun, 1 driver card, 50 existence points, to be activated. System, is the effect of this eternal overshoot gun what I thought? Owen did not redeem it immediately, but asked again. After all, this skill consumes 50 years of life, which shortens life. System products must be top-notch. American TV series system, the master's idea is completely correct. Please experience the specific uses yourself. Exchange. Owen was furious when he heard it. What are you waiting for? You must exchange it immediately. Fortunately, the communication with the system is in the consciousness. No matter how long it is delayed, the outside world is equivalent to stillness. American TV series system, confirm the exchange. The exchange is successful. Please check it. Are you sure the correction coefficient is useful? Karen's joking words are still ringing in my ears. Definitely, and certainly. Now, Karen looked at the electronic watch on her wrist in surprise, and was shocked by the free conversion between Owen Sagely and Owen Hero Lee. Academic research cannot tolerate any falsehood. Owen was eager to check the actual combat effect of the skills, and his tone was more serious and his voice was much louder. Sheila, who was in the kitchen, heard it and smiled. Classmate Owen is right, Karen. Since you asked classmate Owen to come and help you with your homework, how can you be lazy? I know, Mom. Ah. Karen screamed, echoing throughout the room. What's wrong, Karen? Sheila was startled and quickly leaned over to ask. It's nothing, Mom. Karen crawled out from under the table, holding a pencil in one hand and covering her mouth with the other hand, and said vaguely, just now, the pencil fell down, and I went to pick it up. I didn't expect it to hit the table leg and got hit. You kid. Sheila breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, why are you so careless? Come here and let me see if you are hurt. No. Karen waved her hands and said, it's not that exaggerated. It will be fine in a while. You don't have to worry about me. Really nothing? Sheila asked, and seeing Karen's face full of impatience, she had to shake her head and continue to prepare dinner. What the FK? When Sheila turned around, Karen came to Owen, lowered her voice, her eyes widened, and said in disbelief, how did you do it? Owen smiled proudly. How? How could it be like this? How could it be like this? Karen stared at Owen and murmured, could it be the mysterious power of the East? I have dated more than one Asian, but I have never encountered such a magical thing. Oh, God. This is incredible. Owen replied, there was a girl in Russia who was recording in a recording studio. Her voice paralyzed the sound recording software in the studio. Her voice of over 100 decibels was louder than the rumble of a train. According to calculations, the maximum decibel that humans can produce is about 120 dB. We will take this as the maximum value and set 0x 120. Once the k value is determined, we can get the range of y in this interval. In this inverse proportional function, x cannot be equal to 0. The female driver Karen's eyes were burning, as if she had turned into a female academic bully. Pa. Absolutely right. Owen clapped his hands and praised, Karen, your comprehension is really amazing. Sheila in the kitchen heard the noise and smiled with relief. She had never seen her daughter so enthusiastic about learning. She thought to herself, this classmate Owen is really different from those boys in the past. Karen has really learned knowledge with him. That's great. He sounds very professional. Thinking of this, Sheila walked out of the kitchen with a fruit plate, came to the dining table, and smiled at Owen. Classmate Owen, come and have an apple. Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. Owen thanked him. You're welcome. Just call me Sheila. The more Sheila looked at Owen, the more she liked him. She invited him. I'm sorry to trouble you with Karen's study. You must come often in the future. Okay. Owen glanced at Karen, who winked at him and sneered, and reluctantly agreed. In fact, since he exchanged for skill 1 and personally experienced the domineering effect of the eternal overfill gun, he was destined to be unable to perform it in public. Without this motivation, he was no longer interested in coming to tutor Karen. Don't you want to come? Although Karen was young, she was already a well-known female driver. She saw through Owen's thoughts at a glance, and said with a roll of her eyes, there will be a party tomorrow night at Steve Schiller's house. You know Steve, he's crazy. It will be very noisy inside. Are you coming? Chapter 10 Shameless. Bang, bang, bang. Just as Karen invited Owen to be a female driver, there was a knock on the door. Who is it? Sheila walked to the door, opened the door and asked. Hi, Mrs. Jackson. A white youth, carrying a school bag and holding his brother, stood outside the door and greeted Sheila. Oh, it's Karen's teacher. Sheila greeted warmly. Karen is very grateful to you. She got an A in physics class. Coming quickly, but the plastic bags are used up. You can put your shoes outside to get some fresh air. Oh, shit. Karen heard the noise, slapped her forehead, looked at Owen apologetically, and then stood up and greeted the two brothers who were equally confused. Hi, Lip. Hi. Lip looked at Owen awkwardly and introduced. This is my brother Ian. Hi, Ian. Karen greeted the uneasy Ian and introduced. This is Owen, who helps me with math. Owen, this is Lip and Ian. Owen nodded to the two brothers and thought strangely in his heart, it can't be such a coincidence. Is this the day when Lip shows that true brothers are like hands and feet, and women are like clothes? In the original plot, Lip learned that his brother Ian was a gay. In order to straighten him out, he shamelessly asked Karen, who had just had a relationship with him, for help. It's just right, let's study together. Sheila didn't feel the embarrassment or deliberately turned a blind eye and was very happy that Karen had so many friends to help with homework. Lip was very smart. Seeing this situation, he pulled his brother who wanted to leave, sat down and took out his books and prepared to pretend to leave, otherwise it would be a bit unreasonable to leave just after coming. The four people sat down and read their own books. Only the soft sound of the cooking show that Sheila was watching was heard in the room. Do you want to talk to me? Karen glanced at Ian who was fidgeting and winked at Lip. The two left the table and came to the stairs, asking softly, I want you to help my brother, like you helped me last time. Lip said shamelessly. Okay. Karen glanced at Ian, who was a little handsome, and readily agreed, turning around and going back. You don't want to do it now? Lip was shocked. There were outsiders here. They could hide this trick from Sheila, but definitely not from Owen, who was the same age. Don't worry, Karen said indifferently. I don't think Owen will mind. Lip is a scumbag, and she is an out-and-out scumbag, completely in line with the essence of a shameless person. Even if she hadn't discussed various mathematical problems with Owen just now, she would have dared to do so, not to mention that Owen is now a little familiar with her. Let's do it next time. Lip is still young after all, and has not grown up to be as shameless as his father Frank, so he said tactfully. Today. Karen got angry, bit her lip, and returned to the dining table. She glanced at Sheila who had her back to them, and ducked under the table. Ahem. Owen coughed lightly, stood up and greeted. Karen, I have something else to do. I'm leaving first. What's wrong? Karen stopped moving, looking at Owen with an innocent and puzzled look on her face. I really have something to do. I just remembered it. Owen quickly put away the books, put them in his backpack, and walked out while explaining. He didn't care about Karen's scumbag and promiscuity, because he wouldn't date her. It was just a benefit, but that didn't mean he wanted to watch the scene. Ian, who was sitting opposite him, was a gay. If he fantasized about him during the process, it would be disgusting. Okay. Karen pouted and sent Owen out. She held Owen at the door without any reluctance and asked, you haven't given me an answer yet. Well, are you coming to the party tomorrow night? Are you sure you only invited me? Don't let me stand you up when you go. Owen teased. Sure. Karen smiled and said, today is an accident. I promise to only invite you tomorrow night. Okay. Owen agreed immediately. He also wanted to have a real fight. Karen was pure and beautiful, extremely bad and dissolute, without any hidden dangers, and was the best choice. See you tomorrow night. Karen smiled sweetly, glimpsed her figure, was slightly startled, and shouted to the person who came, "Dad, you are back so early?" "Yeah. This is my classmate, Owen Lee, who helps me with math." "Hello, Mr. Jackson." Owen looked at the fat middle-aged white man, and a trace of pity flashed in his eyes. As an honest man with a relatively normal outlook among the shameless people, Eddie Jackson was forced to jump into the river by his wife and daughter. It was really sad. Watching Karen and her father enter the house, Owen walked to the corner of the street and looked at Karen's house from a distance. He wanted to see if Karen would do that kind of thing after his delay. Not long after, "You're dead." An angry roar came, and Karen's door was opened. Ian ran out in a panic, and Lip jumped down from the second floor window in a panic. Both of them were barefoot and ran in the snow. Only Eddie was left, leaning out of the second floor window and cursing at the backs of the two. As a father, seeing two bastards sitting at his dining table seriously, but secretly ruining his daughter in front of him, anyone would be furious. Owen sighed lightly. Karen was really a scumbag. Even if she was delayed by him, she dared to do such a thing when she knew her father was next to her. It can only be said that this is her nature, and she can't blame others. In his previous life, he was shocked by this scene, so he had searched for comments about Karen. Some people with incorrect values found various reasons for Karen, saying that it was because Eddie had always wanted to abandon his wife and daughter, and then humiliated Karen in public, which led to her breaking the jar. But the reason why there was such a thing as public humiliation was because Karen had done too many outrageous things first. Just like what happened just now, any normal father would not be able to stand it. His wife had a special sex addiction, and she was suspicious all day and did not go out. Since the age of 10, his daughter had shown signs of being like his wife. In the absence of any way to change, Eddie complained every time, but he did not really leave, which was already very remarkable. People live with a face. Is it wrong to have a face? Like Frank, the father of the Lip brothers, breaking through various lines, and being a shameless and frank shameless person is considered a free and easy good person? Of course, reborn in this life in the materialistic society of America, Owen did not intend to be a pure good person. With the system and the driver cards to collect, he was destined to be a shameless person. However, this did not conflict with Owen's ambitions, because top scientists like Einstein were truly shameless in their private lives, but these flaws were deliberately ignored under the brilliant light of the other party, Karen's family. Sheila held Karen in her arms, ignoring the fact that she had just overturned the table and saw with her own eyes, and kept saying there, "Don't be like this, it's just a study group." Son of the bitch. Eddie cursed angrily, raising his hand to hit him, but saw his daughter looking at him with tears in her eyes, with fear and sadness in her eyes, but without any guilt or regret. He looked at his wife who was holding his daughter tightly in his arms, and looking at her with his neck stiff, and then he put down his raised hand weakly, sighed, and slammed the door, and left in hatred. PS. Please recommend and invest. Chapter 11 American Pie. The next day, after school in the afternoon. "Hi, Karen." Lip stopped Karen, looked at her face with his clever eyes, and apologized. "I'm so sorry for yesterday. Are you okay?" "No." Karen shook her head gently, carrying her school bag, and walked out of the campus. "Is Ian okay?" There are no secrets in the south side of Chicago. Eddie, who slammed the door and left yesterday, found the father of Lip's brothers, the old bastard and real drunkard Frank Gallagher, in the bar. Without saying a word, he beat Frank up and made his nose bleed. Frank was also a real man. He wiped the blood from his face. Seeing that he couldn't wipe it off, he didn't care about it. He drank a large glass of beer in one gulp. For the first time before the bar closed, he staggered back home. In the surprised eyes of everyone, he went up and beat Ian up, returning the loss he suffered to the person involved, that is, his son. "It's okay." Lip scratched his head and smiled a little embarrassedly. "Veronica helped to deal with it. You know, she used to be a professional nurse and is very skilled in this area." "That's good." Karen nodded. Lip bent over, touched his nose, looked around, and saw no one. so he asked softly, "Karen, you gave in yesterday." Well, what was his reaction? As the eldest brother, Lip still cares about his younger brother very much. He thinks that, if he can straighten him, he must try his best to straighten him out. After all, gay is not a mainstream style. Karen shrugged and spread his hands. No reaction at all. After saying that, he continued to walk forward. Lip turned around, took a few quick steps, and walked side by side with Karen, hesitating. "Do you need me to tutor you again? I won't charge you money in the future." In the previous tutoring, Lip not only enjoyed Karen's special service, but also shamelessly asked for tutoring fees. If Karen was not extremely special, any normal girl would have slapped him long ago. Not for the time being. Karen paused slightly and gave Lip a smile. Although she had always disliked her father and always contradicted him, and even dared to do such things in front of him, she was very sensitive and concerned about Eddie's opinion. After what happened yesterday, Eddie angrily slammed the door and left, and did not go home that night. She was still very upset, so she was unhappy all the time. She just smiled in response to Lip's kindness, without the previous lively and interesting. "Okay. If you need anything, you can always find me." Lip saw that Karen really didn't mean to be surprised, so he was relieved, tightened the backpack on his shoulders, gestured to Karen, and left. As the eldest son of the Gallagher family, he is very busy. If it weren't for Karen's boldness, that deeply attracted him, and made him reluctant to break off this connection for the time being, how could he, who was cold by nature, and could be called a young version of Frank Gallagher, come to apologize specially? Night fell. Under the surprised eyes of Lisa and Jack, Owen went out, rode his bicycle, and came to Karen's house. Because he called in advance, Karen was already waiting there. "Are you sure you want to go?" Owen looked at Karen, who was not in high spirits, and confirmed, "Of course." Karen took Owen's arm, took a deep breath, shook her head violently, as if to get rid of her troubles, and then dragged Owen, and strode towards the party. Sklar's house. Located in a remote corner, the owner is a single mother with 2 sons. The eldest son, Steve Sklar, grew up completely crooked under the happy education method of the American elite and civilians. Because he is a boy, he became a high school football player in a template. In addition to the crazy collision on the court every day, his mind is full of hormones. And where is the best place to vent hormones? Party, party, and party. But Steve Schiller was different from a normal high school football player. He had some problems with his brain, and played lawless games. He was so crazy that his friends were disgusted and didn't want to get involved with him. Over time, he was not invited to many parties. Seeing this, Steve Schiller used the supreme law that is common in America, the Franklin Law. It costs money to hold a party. The party organizer needs to provide the venue, music, beer, snacks, etc. The higher the level of the party, the higher the level of these things. Of course, high school students usually hold the lowest level parties, which don't cost much, but they are held every now and then. Steve Schiller's mother is quite rich and often travels on business, so the Schiller Villa can be regarded as the best party venue. Under Steve's organization, those high school students, although they despise Steve's character, no one can resist the temptation of a free party. It's the same tonight. Karen's house is not far from the Schiller's house. When Karen dragged Owen to arrive, high school boys and girls who were obviously dressed up came in groups of 3 or 2. Among them, there are even younger junior high school students who want to come to the party. For such people, Steve Schiller, the party organizer, glanced at them. If they are boys, they should get out as far as possible. If they are girls, they will be welcomed warmly. Well. Hearing the knock on the door, Steve came to open the door. Seeing that it was Owen and Karen, he put his hand on the door, tilted his mouth, and laughed exaggeratedly. "Isn't this the famous academic boy in our school? He actually came to my party. Everyone, come and see." The eyes of the people inside all looked over. Karen's pretty face turned cold, and she held her head high and said, "He is my male companion tonight. Why don't you welcome him? Welcome. Steve's eyes spun around Karen. Forced by Karen's momentum, he took a step back, made way, and pouted. "How can I not give face to you, Karen Jackson, when you speak? Come in and enjoy the party tonight." The crowd laughed. Everyone, including Owen, understood Steve's thoughts. For a girl like Karen who looks exquisite and beautiful, but has an extremely unruly style, she is simply the favorite gift of all boys. But style is one thing, and whether she agrees or not is another. If Steve dared to refute Karen in public just now, then with the face-saving nature of high school girls like Karen, Steve would never want to provoke Karen throughout his high school career. Come with me upstairs. Karen pulled Owen and went straight to the bedroom upstairs after entering the door. What the F***? A group of wretched boys stared at Karen, and when they saw this scene, they screamed out loud, with all kinds of envious and jealous expressions on their faces. What's wrong with this world? Owen Lee, this nerd, is more popular than all of us. Why is it not me who was pulled up by Karen? Chapter 12. One night of dolphin laughter. The Sklar's house. The three wretched men gathered together, staring at Karen and Owen with their too late, get in the car gestures, envious and jealous. At this time, their friend Kevin, the only one with a stable girlfriend, came down from upstairs. What are you doing here? Don't you see so many girls around? Kevin, how are you? The three wretched men saw Kevin, and temporarily left Karen and Owen aside, each with a wretched expression and winking. Kevin naturally understood what these bad friends meant, smiled unnaturally, shrugged and said, Vicky still insists on being in the perfect place at the right time. Oh, man. The love saint Owen Finch patted Kevin's shoulders with pity. Hi. Come on. Jim rolled his eyes when he saw his two friends were pitying Kevin. He spread his hands and reminded them, Kevin is enjoying it all the time. We haven't even touched a girl's hair. Owen and Finch were startled, and then they lamented, it's true. Even Owen Lee, the nerd, has walked ahead of us, but we haven't made any moves yet. It seems that, before we graduate from high school, we will have to wear the ridiculous hat of beasts. Jim and Kevin also sighed. Just as the youth of students on the other side of the ocean is not all about sex, abortion, car accidents, going abroad and other bloody plots, most American high school students are not like in the movies, venting their hormones unscrupulously. There are more ordinary boys like Jim, who are moved, but have no chance to act. Of course, there are many like Kevin. Some American girls are still more persistent in the last step. They are only willing to talk about feelings with their boyfriends, but it is just psychological persistence. In Irving's opinion, such persistence is meaningless. Some are even more bizarre, like the good brother Lip Gallagher, that Irving met before. The girlfriend of his roommate during college was the one who hooked up with him. That was the one who had his moral integrity and worldview shattered. Just as the four people were lamenting their fate, a female scream rang out. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and saw a girl running down from the second floor. She was waving her hands in panic and ran out. There was a pool of vomit on her clothes. It was obvious that someone had vomited on her. How interesting. It seems to be Steve. Go up and take a look. The four people rushed to the second floor and saw Steve Schiller, who was always fearless, kneeling on the ground, holding the toilet with both hands and stuffing his head in, vomiting there. Kevin Myers, I'm going to kill you. After Steve Schiller vomited for a round, he heard Jim and others watching and laughing there, and his lungs exploded. Thinking that the instigator was Kevin, he immediately roared, but then he was fumed from the peculiar smell in his throat and started vomiting again. You asked for it. Kevin chuckled and said, there are several rooms on the second floor, but you dragged a girl in and broke into our room, ruining the good things between Vicky and me, and kicked us out. You even drank beer without even looking at us. Ha ha ha. Drink beer? Jim and the others didn't know the details yet. They just saw Steve in trouble and couldn't help but feel happy. After listening to the conversation between Kevin and Steve, it seemed that there was something else going on. That glass of beer is. Kevin whispered to the friends who gathered around him, and then there was a burst of laughter. Jim and the others slapped their thighs, pointed at Steve who was vomiting, and laughed until tears came out. Ha ha ha. Steve, is the beer Kevin mixed good? Holy shit. Steve, you are a real man. You dare to drink this? Don't tell me ordinary people don't pay attention. It's easy to be fooled. After all, it's all foam. I'm right to come to this party tonight. It's really an eye-opener. Ha ha ha. This explosive news spread with a wind and spread throughout the party in an instant. Even those students from the same school who didn't come to the party burst into laughter with their mobile phones, leaving their parents confused. If it were any other time, Steve would have exploded long ago, but at this moment he was vomiting all over the sky and holding the toilet, so he didn't have the strength to fight back. At this moment. What? Listen. Loving you is easy cause you're beautiful, making love with you is all I wanna do. A beautiful song came from the next room, making Jim and others look at each other in surprise. Karen Jackson. Everyone looked at each other and shouted in unison, then ignored Steve and ran out of the room. What the hell? Just after leaving the room, Jim and the others almost bumped into someone. They looked up and were startled to see that the corridor was already crowded with people. Almost all of them were girls, standing at the door of a guest room with strange faces, listening attentively. Vicky. Kevin saw that his girlfriend was among them and couldn't help but shout. Shh. Fuck. The girls glared at each other. Loving you is more than just a dream come true, and everything that I do is out of loving you, la la do you and do you and do ah. When the song came to this point, a female voice with a dolphin sound rang out, and the onlookers shuddered, crossed their arms, and got goosebumps on their arms. This song lasted for more than an hour. Tonight, all the people at the party were crowded together. There was no room in the corridor, so they opened the guest room next door, put their ears against the wall, and listened attentively. The sound insulation of the wooden room was poor, and Karen's dolphin sound was the highest sound that humans could make. Everyone was fascinated and couldn't help themselves. Vicky. Well, the night was deep, the song ended, and everyone left the Sklar family in a daze. Kevin's girlfriend Vicky and her best friend Jessica went home together. On the way, Jessica couldn't help but exclaimed, "This is true happiness. Is it like this for all couples?" Vicky said half doubtfully and half moved. If the answer is yes, then the perfect time and perfect place that she insisted on before will be immediately discarded by her. Love is enough. Isn't it also a perfect romance? Of course not. Jessica sneered. This is the happiness that only a real man can bring to a woman. I've been in the love field for so many years. Not only have I never met him, I've never even heard of him. Karen Jackson. This bitch is so lucky. Yeah. Vicky couldn't help but agree. Just listening to her singing can make people feel her endless happiness and joy. Karen is so lucky. Huh. Jessica glanced at her bestie, who was obviously different from before, and snorted. Just wait and see. A real man like Owen is definitely not something a bitch like Karen Jackson can enjoy alone. We all have a chance. Vicky looked up at the moon and murmured in a voice that only she could hear, "I hope so." Chapter 13. The School Full of Red Sleeves. North Shore Public High School. Morning school time. Hi, Owen. Hi. Hi, Owen. Hi, Owen. Hi, Owen. Owen had just rode into the school. Wherever he went, groups of girls were pointing and laughing. Some looked at Owen with curiosity, some were surprised, some were shy, some were evasive, and some even flirted and greeted Owen directly. For a moment, Owen was transparent, as if he was emitting golden light. Under the waving of the red sleeves of the whole school, he directly became Owen, the school hunk, leaving countless boys dumbfounded. Some boys who were named school hunks were no longer as sunny as before, and looked at Owen with hostility, because even they had never enjoyed such honor. The explosive news spread so fast. If only one or two people said so, others might take it as a joke. But there were so many people at the party last night. Under the influence of public opinion, others who did not personally witness the scene had to choose to believe that Owen was a real man, the real name of the dolphin lover school Princely. Owen did not think of this for a while. He was confused by the enthusiasm of so many girls in the school. He waved awkwardly to deal with the enthusiastic girls he did not know. What he did not expect was that during class, even the teachers of various subjects looked at him with strange eyes. A male teacher who was usually cheerful after class winked at him and gave him a thumbs up, which made everyone laugh. In the afternoon, after school, Owen came to the classroom where the mathematics competition team was located with some numbness to carry out extracurricular activities. In the United States, these extracurricular activities are all credits. If Owen wants to be admitted to a prestigious university, it is necessary to increase his advantages as much as possible. "Hey, buddy." As soon as I walked in, my shoulders sank. I saw Kevin Apple, an African guy who had always been at odds with Irving, standing on tiptoe, putting his hand on Irving's shoulder, using the weird tone of Leonard when he saw Sheldon's twin sisters in The Big Bang Theory, with a flattering expression of, "Since I saw your beautiful sister, I knew that I would consider you my brother for life." You know, the word buddy is only used by very close friends. After Kevin Apple lost the competition with Irving for the captain of the North Shore Middle School Mathematical Olympiad team, he has always been a nose that is not a nose, eyes that are not eyes, and he is not even a friend, so how can he be called a buddy? Buddy? Owen's mouth twitched, his shoulders moved, and he broke away from Kevin Apple's hand, frowning and looking down at him. "Kevin, do you have anything to do?" No. Kevin Nabber wanted to continue to get close to Owen, but he was too short. As long as Owen didn't cooperate, it was difficult for him to put his arm around Owen's shoulder. He could only put down his arm with regret, and said with a smile, "We are teammates on the Olympic team. We are all good friends. We should get closer, right?" Aha. Owen walked to a desk and sat down, put down his school bag, snorted without comment, crossed his arms, and looked at the African boy with a flattering face with a smile. He wanted to see what the other party was up to. To be able to join the Olympic team, the IQ is extraordinary. Even because it is a public high school, the top student resources are almost all snatched by private high schools, and there are very few LV5 level geniuses, but the intelligence of the African boy has reached the LV4 talent level that Owen Krypton. If Owen had not been hardworking, and had not accumulated some vision and mentality from his previous life, he might not have won the match if they really fought. Being the captain of the Olympic team is also an honor, which is very helpful for entering a top university in the future. Kevin Apple smiled and rubbed his hands and said, "Owen, I just want to be good friends with you, so that I can have face when I tell others about it in the future." Seeing that Owen was unmoved, the African boy knew that he had to make it clear, and his dark face turned red and said, "It also makes me more popular with women. You don't know, today is the day I have the most contact with girls since I was a child." "Oh, God. Although the girls are asking about you, it's still great." "Ask about me about what?" Owen asked subconsciously. The African boy changed his usual old-fashioned academic face and raised his eyebrows in a very obscene way. "The school has long been spread your amazing performance last night. Everyone knows about it. But I heard that the heroine took a sick leave today. I heard that her voice was hoarse and she was not feeling well. Buddy, you are so awesome. You are simply my idol." Stop. Owen really couldn't stand the enthusiasm of the black boy. The call of buddy gave him goosebumps. He waved his hand and said, "Just call me by my name." "So you want to borrow my light to get close to girls?" "Yes, Owen." The African guy's eyes lit up and he said, "When fighter jets are on a mission, there is usually a wingman to provide support. I can be your wingman. The kind that, if the attack fails, the main engine retreats, the wingman provides cover, and if necessary, perishes together with the enemy." Owen said with a smile, "Are you willing to be this kind of cannon fodder?" "Yes, I am." The African guy first had a face full of black question marks, then nodded repeatedly, and analyzed shrewdly. "With your combat effectiveness, the success rate of the attack you launch can reach more than 90%. With such a high probability, even if there is a risk of becoming cannon fodder, it is worth it. After all, there is no risk, no gain." Owen joked, "Are you sure the wingman can enjoy the rewards of victory?" "Of course." The African guy smiled confidently. "You may not understand how dazzling your reputation is now. This is America. It's not only boys who chase girls. Girls will definitely flock to you when they see that you, Owen, are a real man, dolphin lover, and the king of campus princely. As your good friend and fighting wingman, even if I was originally insulated from girls, I will definitely be able to conduct electricity under this wave. I originally thought that I would never be able to take off the hat of a beastly man until I went to college, graduated, worked, and got married, but I didn't expect a miracle to happen now. Oh, God, I praise you." The African boy became more and more excited as he spoke, and he drew a cross directly on his chest and praised God devoutly, leaving Owen speechless. However, after the African boy's reminder, Owen finally figured everything out and was in a good mood. Although the skill 1 consumed 50 years of his life and delayed his further improvement in intelligence, the influence brought by its domineering power made Owen very satisfied. Brother, after all, I have one glory for the nation, and it will be easier to collect driver cards in the future. This wave is definitely not a loss. Chapter 14 Bullying. It doesn't exist. The land of gentleness is the tomb of heroes. In the blink of an eye, Owen's body has been half buried. However, it is not the Lois that buried him, but the ex-girlfriends. To be precise, it is all kinds of benefits like Karen Jackson. A big forest has all kinds of birds. The same is true in reverse. As the clever African boy analyzed, when Owen's real name of the real man-dolphin lover school Prince Lee was recognized by the girls, all kinds of hot girls swarmed in and soon overwhelmed Owen. Owen had already secretly vowed that he would never marry in this life, and his love would only be given to his only lover. Mathematics and science and the rest of his trillions of enthusiasm would be poured out to all kinds of goddesses. Therefore, for this behavior of all the girls in the school working together to dig a pit to bury him, Owen only resisted a little bit, and then he spread his limbs and let them do whatever they wanted. As the initiator, Karen Jackson pouted her lips to show that she was very unhappy in the face of this situation. It was not because she was angry at Owen's scumbag behavior, but because she now needed to queue up. It was only 3 months. Owen's middle name has one more, that is, public enemy of boys. It was the afternoon after school. On the school playground, the football players were wearing protective gear and helmets, running hard on the field, and all kinds of wild collisions. This is the #1 sport in the United States, American football. FK. What are you doing? Steve Schiller was furious at an obviously deliberate foul and yelled at John Rich, who was provocative. What? John kicked Steve hard with his foot and sneered, "Of course I don't like you, a bastard, and I want to beat you up. How about it, bastard?" Steve is not someone to be trifled with. Seeing this, he immediately got up from the grass and rushed towards John. Calm down, calm down. The players from both sides quickly pulled the two apart to prevent them from really fighting. Although it is normal for football players to fight, they will not fight with players from the same school for no reason. "I will never let you go," Steve shouted. "Asshole, am I afraid of you? Come on if you can." John's eyes turned red as he thought of something, and he yelled at Steve, "You drunk # idiot. If it weren't for the shitty party you held, how could that yellow monkey have the chance to be so arrogant?" "What?" Steve was stunned. Then he understood and pointed at John and shouted, "What does his arrogance have to do with me? Did he cheat on your sister, or did he cheat on your girlfriend?" Before he finished speaking, John's eyes turned red, and he yelled, threw away the people who were trying to stop him, and rushed towards Steve. Even Steve was startled by this amazing force, and then he realized that he probably hit John's sore spot. "FK. He really cheated on you," Steve muttered, and his momentum weakened. He looked at John, as if he saw the Hulk, and quickly dodged. After hearing the gossips from people in the know, he finally understood the whole story. John did have a sister who studied in the same school, and he also had a girlfriend in the same school. Unfortunately, not long ago, his girlfriend took the initiative to break up with him, saying that they were not suitable, and they no longer had feelings for each other. Before John could try to get his ex-girlfriend back, his sister saw that he was unhappy and confused, and with her personal experience, she kindly told him the truth, and advised him to think more positively. John didn't react at first, but after he completely understood the rich connotations of his sister's words, he was almost so angry that he exploded on the spot. Finally, he was a little rational and didn't make trouble for Owen during class. Instead, after school, he blocked Owen in an alley. "What do you want to do?" Owen asked with a frown. "You damn yellow monkey." John gritted his teeth and said, "How dare you touch Natalie?" "Natalie?" Owen subconsciously asked back. "Natalie Lyon, Natalie Smith, Natalie Heron, Natalie George, which one are you talking about?" Even though John was about to explode with anger, he was still stunned by Owen's implicit and shameless question, and shouted in disbelief, "You have touched so many people named Natalie?" Ahem. Owen coughed dryly and smiled to cover it up. "I'm just kidding. Who are you?" John Rich. John clenched his fist, approached Owen step by step, and sneered with a ferocious face. Tell me another joke. How many girls with the surname Rich you have met? Oh, there are not many. Let me think. Anna Rich, Amy Rich, Rachel Rich. Owen couldn't say anything more, because John's fist had hit him hard. As the first sport in America, rugby advocates the collision of power, so the physical fitness of rugby players is very strong. When little Sheldon first entered school, his mother told him that when someone bullied him, he should say that his father was a rugby coach and his brother was a rugby player, because rugby players have a strong deterrent power. Owen looked at the huge fist hitting his head, sighed softly, and thought to himself, this should be the so-called school bullying, but fortunately I have a system. Thinking of this, he communicated with the system directly in his consciousness. System, display the attribute panel. Yes, master. As the American TV system responded, the attribute panel appeared in Owen's consciousness. Existence points. 82, 50 equals 32 points, negative pole. 452, driver cards. 0 intelligence, LV4 strength, LV2 speed, LV2 endurance, LV2 plus energy release, LV1 combat skills, LV1, 1, not good at, 2, average, 3, trained, 4, experienced fighter, 5, proficient in one combat skill, 6, proficient in multiple combat skills, 7, proficient in all combat skills. Skill list. Skill 1, Eternal Surplus Gun. Owen looked at the line of combat skill attributes and confirmed. System. It only takes 5 existence points to upgrade the combat skill attributes from LV1 to LV4. American TV system. Yes. Okay, exchange it. Although it only takes 5 existence points, Owen didn't want to exchange it at first, because the universe he is in now is the positive universe centered on the Big Bang Theory. There is no danger at all, and there is not much point in exchanging it. It is better to save it to exchange for more practical specific skills, or improve other attributes. American TV series system. Confirm the exchange. The exchange is successful. Please check it. A force rose in Owen's body, and many training scenes flashed in Owen's consciousness. With the help of the system, Owen instantly became a soldier with rich combat experience after rigorous training, and at this time John's fist just approached. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15. Let me check the schedule. John Rich transformed into the Hulk and swung his fist at Owen. Owen had been prepared for this. He spent 5 existence points to exchange for level 4 combat skills and instantly became a fighter with rich combat experience. Although John Rich was a strong football player, he was not a fighter after all. In front of the experienced fighters produced by the system, he had no advantage. He was beaten by Owen and screamed and ran away. Chinese Kung Fu. If it were another negative world, John Rich might have turned evil and fought Owen to the death. But this is a positive universe centered on the Big Bang Theory after all. It is normal to give in when you can't win. John Rich didn't even think about tangling with other team members and forming a group for revenge. The reason why he had a conflict with Steve Schiller today was because Steve Schiller was too annoying. John couldn't afford to offend Irving, who knew Chinese Kung Fu. Seeing Steve Schiller's annoying face in front of him, he thought that the reason why he was so tragic was because Steve Schiller held various parties every day, which gave Irving the opportunity to be famous at North Shore Middle School. Hatred can be transferred, and it is obvious that Steve Schiller is much easier to bully than Irving. John Rich's eyes were red, and his head was hot, and he directly confronted Steve Schiller. The conflict between the two sides was fleeting. John Rich's experience made many boys empathize with him. Even Steve Schiller, who has always been lawless, could only give in when facing John Rich, who had red eyes and green all over his body, as if he could turn into a terrifying Hulk at any time. The other football players knew the cause and effect of the conflict. In fact, even if John Rich did not form a group to retaliate, there were some football players who wanted to teach Irving a lesson. but it was obvious that they all failed. The successive failures have completely confirmed the legend that Owen is a kung fu boy. In addition to severely shocking the other students who want to find fault, it has also made Owen more popular with girls. After all, the mysterious power of the East is still very attractive to American girls, and Owen's schedule is even busier. Hi, Owen. Hi, Karen. Before the end of school, before the last class, Karen Jackson stopped Owen, bit her lip, and said with misty eyes, "Owen, you haven't tutored me for a long time. Come to my house this afternoon." Owen instinctively wanted to refuse. It's not that Owen doesn't like Karen. In fact, Karen is the top among all the girls who follow Owen for tutoring, whether in appearance, figure or studious degree. Look at the driver card line in the system attribute column. Owen has been teaching for 3 months, and he hasn't added a single driver card. And before, he only tutored Karen once on a parabola, and he got the first goddess driver card, which is enough to prove Karen's excellence. This is a goddess recognized by the system. There are many top beauties among the other girls who signed up for Irving's tutoring class, but they are all a little bit inferior. During this period, Irving distanced himself from Karen because he was too busy. For a tutoring class, as long as the teacher's name is known, students will flock to it. It's no joke to count money until your hands cramp. In addition, the system punch-in is calculated per person. Whether you tutor Karen once or 100 times, you will only get one driver card. For various reasons, Karen wanted to jump the queue today and increase the number of tutoring sessions. "Karen, you know, I need to check my schedule to see if there is any time." Even a scumbag like Karen couldn't help rolling her eyes in the face of the god scumbag operation of the rising star Irving, and sighed that Irving was really shameless to a new level. "Owen, come here, my mother keeps talking about you." "What?" Owen's eyelids twitched, his buttocks tightened, and his back felt cold. He coughed dryly. "Mrs. Jackson is talking about me?" "Yes." Karen looked at Owen strangely. In her heart, she still respected Sheila very much. She never thought that her words would make Owen have shameless associations. He smiled and said, "She often said that among all the boys who tutored me, only you are the most professional and trustworthy, so she hopes you will come often." "Oh, so that's the case." Owen smiled embarrassedly, knowing that he was overthinking. He thought, Sheila still knows what she is doing. Although her behavior is eccentric, she never means to force it. After her husband Eddie, a devout believer, stopped cooperating with her, she also injured for many years. In the original time and space, if the old bastard Frank had not coveted her money and offered it to her and strongly asked Sheila not to be polite, when Sheila retreated in shame, Sheila would not have handcuffed Frank to the bed, taken out the wooden box from under the bed, and taken out the indescribable things. Before it even started, Frank, who always thought he was fearless, decisively admitted his fear and showed fear on his face. He wanted to regret it, but he only had time to let out a pig-like scream. "How is it?" Karen looked expectant. "Isn't this inconvenient?" Looking at Karen's innocent face and expectant eyes, Owen was a little moved, but still frowned and said, "Karen, you know, I'm a little special." Karen saw that there was a way to cut in line, and she was surprised. She glanced down and laughed. "It's okay, it's very convenient. I live in the basement now, and I bought a high-powered stereo. My father doesn't go home anymore, and my mother won't care about us. Mr. Jackson hasn't come home yet?" Seeing Karen's heartless look, Owen couldn't help but ask one more question. "Yeah." Karen's eyes flashed a trace of sadness, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Then, Owen hesitated and wanted to ask the old bastard Frank if he had taken over the magpie's nest like in the original time and space, but he held back. It was not good to ask such private matters when they were not related. Besides, he would know when he went there. Karen looked at Owen in confusion. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Owen shook his head and smiled. "Since you love learning so much, I will give you a good tutorial today. After all, the pursuit of knowledge is respectable and lovely." "Then it's settled." Karen smiled. "See you after school." "See you after school." Owen replied affirmatively. Seeing the beautiful girl jumping up and down because of his promise, Owen smiled with relief and murmured, "That's great. This kind of good deed that benefits both oneself and others. Why not do it until death?" Chapter 16. Entering the house. Jackson's house. Bus. A train whizzed by. Dang, dang, dang. There was a knock on the door. Sheila kept the same posture, half opened the door, and carefully observed the person coming. Then she saw Frank Gallagher, a famous old bastard and real drunkard in the South District. His messy hair was tied into a small braid. He was holding wildflowers that he had picked from somewhere and looked at her with a smile. "Oh, if you are looking for the women's branch, it's the one without a mailbox 2 doors over there." Sheila hadn't been out for many years, so she didn't know Frank. It was just because of Frank's appearance that she thought he was a homeless person. No. Frank was a little speechless, but as a real shameless person, this little embarrassment was as normal as breathing. He handed the wildflowers forward and whispered softly, "I'm here to see you, Sheila. I want to say sorry to you." "Sorry?" Sheila was puzzled. "My name is Frank, and I'm Lipandian's father." Frank reminded. "Oh, that pair of brothers." Sheila suddenly realized that as a woman with a special sex addiction, she didn't care about her husband Eddie's rage, and even had a faint affection for the Lip brothers who played together with her daughter. "I want to say, I'm sorry. I know Eddie ran away from home. You are so considerate." Sheila was no match for Frank, and was moved by Frank's words. She took the initiative to invite him. "Come in, Frank." Frank was overjoyed, but just as he was about to walk in, he almost bumped into the door. It was Sheila who closed the door first. Although Sheila opened the door again later, Frank didn't know why he had a slight ominous premonition in his heart. However, Sheila's subsidy was too attractive to Frank, so he shook his head, threw away this concern, and walked into the room according to Sheila's strange habit. "Loving you." A high-pitched singing voice faintly came from the basement, even suppressing the dynamic heavy metal storm emitted by the high-power speakers. "Is that Karen singing?" Frank was startled. "Yes." Sheila couldn't help but glanced in the direction of the basement with a face full of envy, and then covered up and said, "Don't worry about her. Do you want some coffee?" "Okay, thank you. Karen sings really well." Frank sat down on the sofa and praised sincerely. Seeing that Sheila was a little embarrassed and didn't want to continue this topic, he tactfully changed the subject. "The house is beautiful." "Thank you," Sheila said with some resentment. After he left, the whole house became much bigger. That's right. Frank was so smart. The super strong rhetoric skills he had acquired from being in the lower class for a long time allowed him to immediately grasp Sheila's mentality and play the family card. "You really should go to my house and see it. It's so small that you can step on the children every time you take a step. There are 6 children. It must be very warm." Sheila sat next to Frank. When Frank was talking and lowering his head to add milk and sugar to his coffee, she looked at Frank with strange eyes. When she heard Frank talking, she echoed absent-mindedly, "That's what parents are like. They always worry about their children." Frank flattered himself and portrayed himself as a loving father, but the fact is that the 6 children of the Gallagher family were raised by his eldest daughter Fiona Gallagher. In addition to drinking and various decadent activities every day, he couldn't even go up to the 2nd floor when he returned home. He always fell drunk on the floor, and sometimes even fell drunk on the street, asking Fiona to take Lip and his brother to carry him back. Not only that, he and his equally shameless wife Monica stole the winter money related to the survival of the 6 children and squandered it on crazy play. Fiona didn't even get a high school diploma and could only work as a waitress with low wages. Lip and Ian were still in school, Debbie and Carl were less than 10 years old, and the youngest Liat was still a baby. In such a difficult situation, except for the youngest who was still a baby, the other 5 brothers and sisters went into battle together, stealing and cheating in various ways. The little winter money they had saved after a long time of hard work was prepared to pay for electricity bills, heating bills and other expenses. You know, without heating, the cold winter can really freeze people to death. What's more, he secretly applied for credit cards for the 6 children, and after stealing and overdrawing the maximum limit of the credit cards, he just left them alone. This is America, and credit issues are definitely a very serious issue. Without Fiona and others knowing, They have been confined to the slums by Frank, because only civilians and refugees do not need to consider the issue of credit rating. There were countless other things that were abusive. Frank Gallagher was such a kind father. After the kind father, Frank sincerely confessed his feelings. Sheila was quite moved, but she couldn't stand the stench of Frank's body from not taking a bath for several months, so she asked Frank to go upstairs to take a bath. Frank lay in the bathtub with foam floating on it, sipping red wine, with a proud and enjoyable look on his face. Everything was surprisingly smooth. He couldn't help thinking in his heart, if I hadn't been reminded by Eddie just now in the bar, how could I enjoy it like this now? Eddie Jackson, this glass of wine, I toast you. As he said, he raised the glass and saluted in the direction of the bar. Knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Frank was moved, and he opened the bathroom door with his bare chest and a bath towel tied on. He saw Sheila standing outside the door holding a set of clothes, breathing a little hurriedly, and looking at Frank with a straight look in his eyes. Frank, I found some of Eddie's clothes for you. See if they fit you. Wow, you have a great figure. I didn't eat for 3 days, but I'm still full of energy. Oops. While Frank was talking, the towel had accidentally loosened and fell to the ground, causing Sheila's vision to drop down. Next, Sheila refused modestly, but under Frank's sincere and enthusiastic call, she finally didn't resist. Her eyes changed, she picked up the towel that fell on the ground, put it directly on Frank's head, and led him to the master bedroom, the basement. Under Owen's command, Karen, who was practicing singing, was suddenly startled by a pig-killing scream. Just then, another train passed by, but the noise of the whistling was completely suppressed by the scream. What a light skill. What happened? Why is there a man screaming? Nothing. Owen already understood what happened, and pulled Karen, who wanted to find out, and whispered in her ear. Karen was stunned for a moment, then she suddenly realized and asked in surprise, "My mother, how did you know?" As Sheila's daughter, she knew all about Sheila's eccentric hobbies. Even her current specialness was largely due to the fact that she often saw and heard these unspeakable scenes since she was a child. Chapter 17, The Sacred Vow. Jackson's house. You told me that. Have you forgotten? Facing Karen's strange look, Owen explained calmly. Huh? Did you? Karen frowned and tried to recall, but she couldn't remember it. Besides, she wasn't stupid. How could she tell outsiders about such a private matter? She couldn't help but stare at Owen in confusion. Of course. Owen smiled affirmatively. Otherwise, how would I know? It seems that you practiced singing too hard, and you sang in a daze, and your memory was all blacked out. How about we stop here today? No. How could Karen resist Owen's retreat? She quickly pulled Owen and said with a smile, I remember. It was indeed me who told you. At this moment, not to mention that she was confused, she didn't know if she told Owen, even if she knew that Owen was lying, she would not dwell on it anymore. Practicing singing happily was the most important thing. Moreover, she was really devoted to singing practice. Under Owen's guidance, she was already close to being a soul singer. At that moment, it was normal for her to be absent-minded and forget about everything. You really remembered it? Owen raised his eyebrows. I really remembered it. Karen laughed and said, let's continue practicing singing. Don't you want to go up and take a look? Owen joked. No need. Karen straightened the instrument, plucked the strings a few times, tested the sound, and said nonchalantly, Mom has had a hard time these years. It's time to find happiness again. I was originally worried that Mom couldn't go out and couldn't meet the right person. I didn't expect someone to take the initiative to find her. Isn't this great? Ah. Another round of pig-killing screams came, as if responding to Karen's words. It's really great. Owen's mouth twitched and nodded seriously. Night fell. Owen, this is my slow-roasted Bavarian pork chop, bacon braised kale, Bavarian potato salad, and apple salad dressing. I wonder if you like it. After an afternoon of hard work, Sheila made a big meal with a smile on her face and served it to Karen and Owen. Great, thank you. Owen complimented politely, but his eyes were the same as Karen's, and he was on the other side of the table, where a plate had been placed. Karen winked at Owen repeatedly, with a begging look on her face, but Owen ignored her. She knew that this was an important meal for Sheila, and she didn't want to disturb her at all, but Owen wanted to watch the joke up close. At this moment, Frank Gallagher, who had changed into Eddie's clothes and looked like a human being, hunched over, with his legs spread wide open, not daring to close them at all, and limped slowly down from upstairs in an extremely weird posture. After he went downstairs, he moved straight to the door, obviously wanting to leave immediately. However, he saw Owen and the other two staring at him with different expressions. "Hi." Frank was a little embarrassed and waved his hand to say hello. "Hi." Only Owen replied with a half smile. At this moment, Sheila showed the shrewdness of a housewife. She quickly took out a bottle of beer and a glass from the kitchen, filled a glass, and placed it on the table. Frank's eyes were immediately straight. He was a real alcoholic. He was satisfied with alcohol. He basically used all his money to buy alcohol, but it was still not enough. He always sat in the bar from opening to closing time and drank alcohol whenever he had the chance. He had never seen a woman prepare alcohol for him with affection. "Let's fight." Frank gritted his teeth secretly, limped over, grabbed the wine glass, and saw Sheila gently put a cushion on the chair, let him sit down after being seriously injured, and introduced some staple food tonight again, and also thoughtfully prepared 2 painkillers. "Thank you." Frank forced a smile, took the painkiller, put it in his mouth, swallowed it with beer, then lowered his head, and began to enjoy the sumptuous dinner silently under Sheila's tender eyes. After dinner, while Sheila went to the kitchen to clean up the dishes, Frank, who had regained his composure, looked at the pure and beautiful Karen, and then looked at Owen, and frowned. "So, Karen, are you classmates?" "Yeah." Karen had a good impression of Frank, who was willing to accept Sheila's destruction, and replied with a sweet smile, "Owen is a famous academic bully in our school, and he came here to help me with my homework." "Really?" Frank smiled faintly. "Karen, baby, help me get the new detergent. It's over there in the shopping bag." At this time, Sheila in the kitchen called out, "Okay, Mom." Karen responded and went over. When she bent over to get something, Frank's eyes suddenly straightened. Men are loyal. From 18 to 80, they all like young and beautiful girls. The alcoholic Frank is no exception. The sixth sense of women made Karen aware of Frank's burning gaze, but she didn't have any intention of avoiding it. She even turned around and gave Frank a seductive look. The name of K-Watch is not just a black name. Owen shook his head secretly in his heart, but it doesn't matter. Ksitagarbha Bodhisattva made a vow that I will not become a Buddha until hell is empty. Today I will also follow the example of a sage. I'm willing to use my own stinky skin to save all the bad women in the world. As long as there are bad women, I will not become an immortal. Ahem. Frank finally came to his senses after Karen entered the kitchen. He approached Owen with difficulty, lowered his voice, and said threateningly, "Hey, kid, listen, I don't care what your relationship with Karen is." Dang dang dang. Before Frank finished speaking, he was interrupted by a rapid knock on the door. Lip's anxious voice came from outside the door. "Karen, is Frank here? I have something urgent to find him." "It's useless." Frank frowned and muttered, "What's the emergency?" Karen ran over from the kitchen to open the door. "Frank is here." Lip walked in, and was first stunned by Frank's formal attire. Then he saw Owen sitting there carelessly. He couldn't help but glance at Karen, and a trace of sadness flashed in his eyes. "What's the emergency?" Frank had just suffered a serious injury, and was unable to move. He sat there, and looked at Lip unhappily. "Come home with me, we'll talk about it when we get back." Lip put away his sadness, and said in a hurry. Seeing that Frank was unmoved, he immediately reminded him loudly, "Frank, it's about Aunt Ginger." Huh. Frank was shocked, and his eyes shrank. His years of experience made him calm down instantly. He stood up and complained, "What can happen to her? Forget it, let's go back and take a look." "Sheila, goodbye." "Goodbye, Frank." Sheila looked reluctant. Owen looked at Lip, helping Frank leave with a thoughtful expression. Chapter 18, Frank's Threat. Gallagher's house. After sending off the federal social security inspectors, the Gallagher family, including Frank, breathed a sigh of relief. In the past few days, in order to cope with this inspection, they really mobilized the whole family. Frank didn't find any beer in the refrigerator, so he patted his butt and walked out. After a few days of recuperation, he had recovered from his rough skin and thick flesh. In addition, the matter was over, and he relaxed his mind. He instinctively missed the life of the uncle in Sheila's house. Compared with here where 6 pairs of eyes were staring at him, Sheila's house made him feel more at home, even if he had to keep painkillers on hand. "Where are you going?" "Going out for a walk." Frank turned around and saw Lip looking at him with a complicated expression and shrugged. "Going back to your new home?" Lip couldn't help but sneer. "Do you have any opinions?" Frank frowned. "What's the matter?" Fina, the eldest sister of the Gallagher family, pushed Lip. "Nothing." Lip opened his mouth, but didn't say anything. Because everyone knows who Frank is, Frank found a new home to live in, except for the 4th child Debbie, who desperately needs father's love. Originally, he didn't care, but when he thought about going to Jackson's house to find Frank a few days ago and seeing Owen there, he got angry. After he waived Karen's tuition, Karen came to him less and less. The relationship between men and women is like a war. Whoever cares more and pays more will lose. Just like in the Love Apartment, all the men agreed with Zeng Xiaoxin that Laura, a woman who doesn't need men to be responsible, is great. But why did Zeng Xiaoxin suffer so much later? Because Zeng Xiaoxin cared, so Zeng Xiaoxin lost miserably. Before, Lip and Karen didn't care about each other. One took his brother and the other agreed without saying a word. They were evenly matched. But since Owen appeared, the balance between Lip and Karen was broken. The value of things that can't be obtained naturally increased, and Karen's charm in Lip's eyes also increased sharply. Frank looked at Lip deeply. As an experienced person, he could see Lip's thoughts. On the way to Sheila's house, he had already made up his mind. "Oh, dear, you are finally back." Frank's arrival was warmly received by Sheila, but an embarrassing thing happened the next morning. Eddie, who had run away from home, came back with a lot of bags. Eddie looked at Frank sitting in his seat, reading the newspaper he ordered, eating the loving breakfast made by his wife, without blinking, and directly accepted this green new life. Even at night, when Frank finished washing and was about to enter the master bedroom, Eddie kindly reminded him, "Take a painkiller first, otherwise it will be useless to take it later." "Thank you." Frank smiled bitterly and walked in. In the master bedroom, Sheila, who was fiddling with various indescribable things, smiled charmingly at Frank, walked to the door, glanced coldly at Eddie, who was still standing there watching, and closed the door heavily. Eddie shrugged and went downstairs. Sitting on the sofa watching TV, he couldn't help but curl up his lips when he heard the screams of a pig being slaughtered coming from upstairs. North Shore Public High School. After school in the afternoon, Owen coldly rejected batches of seniors and juniors who were waiting on the roadside and were ready to chat up. He was in a bad mood because his real name, Owen, the nerd, the real man, the dolphin lover, the king of the school grass, the public enemy of boys, Lee, finally reached the ears of Lisa and Jack. A formal conversation will be held tonight. "Hey, boy." When the bicycle passed the corner of the street, a figure suddenly appeared, forcing Owen to stop suddenly and almost overturned. When he looked closely, his brows could not help but frown, but he saw Frank holding a bottle of wine, pouring it into his mouth, while looking at him with a mocking face. "We haven't finished our last conversation yet. What do you want to say?" Owen leaned his foot on the bicycle and smiled faintly. "Listen, kid." Frank took a few steps forward and said with a strong smell of alcohol, "You and Karen are not suitable. You should know what kind of person she is." "Then who is suitable for Karen?" Owen asked with an interested smile. "Don't act on impulse." Frank didn't like Owen's attitude and squinted his eyes and said, "You are a smart person with a bright future. You definitely don't want any accidents to ruin your beautiful resume. If you do that, you will have to say goodbye to the prestigious university." "Are you threatening me?" Owen smiled slightly. "Of course not." Frank laughed and said, "Why would I threaten you? I'm just giving you some advice from experience as a person who has been through this. You know, when I was in school, there was a classmate who didn't get along well with me. He was always very arrogant, but suddenly one day, he was expelled from school. It turned out that the teacher found some gadgets in his locker. Although he always claimed that those gadgets were not his, the result was already doomed. In my opinion, those gadgets that can bring happiness to everyone are nothing at all. Why make such a fuss? I still use them frequently now." As he said that, Frank took out a small transparent bag from his arms and shook it in front of Owen's eyes. "But you know, rules are rules. For people like us who don't care about the future, rules are bullshit. But for people like you with a bright future, rules are iron laws, aren't they?" Owen's eyes condensed. He understood Frank's threat, and this threat was real and very deterrent. For a bad guy like Frank, if he really wants to frame Owen, there are too many ways to do it, and it is simply impossible to guard against it. Once it succeeds, Owen's plan to cultivate a top student will definitely be fatally affected. Looking for death. Owen sneered in his heart, but his face showed a fearful look, and he said anxiously, "Yes, yes, Mr. Gallagher, I know what to do, I promise. From now on I will never appear in front of you again. Yeah." Frank took a big sip of beer and smiled with satisfaction. "Boy, you are indeed a smart man. I'm beginning to like you a little." Owen smiled awkwardly. "Mr. Gallagher, can I leave?" "Yes." Frank waved his hand quite proudly, looking at Owen, who fled and disappeared in a moment, curled his lips and sneered. "Nerds are nerds. They don't have any courage." Then he thought of his eldest son Lip, and a sense of fatherly pride rose in his heart, muttering to himself, "I can be said to be worried about my son." Chapter 19. The Girl from Africa. Samson's house. "Owen, school is over." "Yeah. This kid." Lisa was just about to talk to Owen in advance, and when she saw Owen responded, he rushed upstairs with his school bag on his back. She thought he didn't want to talk, so she shook her head. But she only guessed half of it. Owen really didn't want to have this special conversation seriously, but the reason he went straight to the second floor was because he had something to do. In the room on the second floor. Swish. Owen wrote quickly, writing lines of words on the printed paper in a crooked font that didn't belong to him. After writing, he stuffed it into an envelope, then filled in an address he found on the internet, changed into a hooded outfit, stuffed the envelope in his pocket, and went downstairs. "Aunt Lisa, I'm going out for a while. Remember to come back early." "Got it." As Lisa reminded him loudly, Owen rushed out of the house, rode his bicycle to the South District Park, walked around for a while, and after confirming that there was no one there, he stuffed the envelope into the mailbox and rode back. I finally got my idea. I'm a real person. If I say I won't appear in front of you in the future, I will definitely not appear in front of you." Owen exhaled lightly and murmured with a smile. At night, the lights were on. At the dining table of the Sampson family, Jack sat in the main seat. After Lisa brought the dinner, he gave Owen a look of blessing and coughed lightly. "Owen, I heard that you have been a little indulgent recently." "What do you mean by a little indulgent?" "This is very indulgent." Lisa knew that Jax, but was leaning towards Owen when she heard it, and she couldn't help but interrupt him, and took over the right to speak. "Owen, you are still young. I know that boys of your age are very interested in the things between men and women. You have always been self-disciplined, and I didn't want to say much. But this time, you really went too far. You know, when I accidentally heard about your glorious deeds, I really couldn't believe it. Is this still my obedient and well-behaved little Owen? Have you forgotten your pursuit?" "Of course not, Aunt Lisa." Owen responded quickly. "Didn't you forget?" Lisa said angrily. "I heard that in just 3 months, you are about to pass North Shore Public High School. If you were the Flash, I wouldn't say anything, but so many girls are praising you. Obviously you have spent enough time on each of them. Time is fixed. The more you spend on girls, the less you spend on studying, that's for sure." Owen opened his mouth to speak, but was interrupted by Lisa's wave of her hand. "I know what you want to say." Lisa scolded domineeringly. "Indeed, your grades are still the best, but you must know that your dream is to become an outstanding scientist, not to be satisfied with being one of the best in a public high school. Genius is 1% inspiration plus 99% sweat, and this 1% inspiration is more important than 99% sweat. Your talent should not be considered the best. If you don't pay 99% of your sweat, you will never catch up with your good friend Sheldon Lee Cooper in your life. Do you want this?" "No." Owen's face became serious, and he said sincerely, "Aunt Lisa, I was wrong. I will pay attention in the future and will spend most of my time on my studies. Although Owen's talent and intelligence points can be continuously improved with the passage of time, Lisa does not know this. Her reprimand is very pertinent and reveals a deep concern. Owen has no reason not to correct his attitude. That's good. Jack smiled and said, Owen, at your age, it's okay to fall in love, but you have to pay more attention to safety and take good precautions. After dinner, come to my study and I'll get you some. Jack. Lisa couldn't listen anymore, but this time Jack didn't obey Lisa. Lisa, Owen is already grown up. You can't expect him to completely suppress his instincts. Besides, most of those great scientists are romantic, and many of their amazing inspirations are born after following their instincts. Jack said seriously, Einstein, Marie Curie, Schrödinger, Feynman, Fermi, even Hawking, look at their biographies. You can see that romanticism is a very common lifestyle in the scientific community. From this perspective, Owen's natural romanticism may be a sign. Lisa paused, speechless. Since Owen set his sights on science, she has also paid more attention to the lives of scientists. Naturally, she knows that what Jack said is true. The role models of scientific giants such as Einstein and Marie Curie are too obvious. Even Stephen Hawking, a scientist who suffers from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, is paralyzed and speechless, has been divorced again and again, and has sought inspiration from the young and beautiful female nurses assigned to him by Cambridge University. Seeing that Lisa was convinced by him, Jack was in a good mood. Of course, it is too much to pass the level like Owen did before, but now that Owen has deeply realized his mistakes, he should pay more attention to it in the future. Safety work cannot be ignored. After dinner, come with me to the study, understand? Got it, Uncle Jack. Owen responded very tactfully. In fact, he didn't need it. 3 months ago, he had an interesting conversation with the system. Owen, you know that, American TV series system. Yes, master, I understand what you mean. You don't like being bound. In fact, you don't need to be bound. Your existence is constantly moving towards eternal life. The mortal view of reproduction has no meaning for you. Owen, so, American TV series system, innate talent, plus acquired efforts. Congratulations, master, you have reached the highest level of infertility. Owen, it always sounds weird. American TV series system, this is basic operation. In addition, because the master was reborn in America, skill 1 also comes with a completely immune aura. All internal and external sources of infection such as pathogens and cancer cells are completely ineffective on the master, ensuring that the master will not suffer from any diseases or poisons. Owen, is it really that powerful? American TV series system, of course. Even if the master travels through time in the future and is bitten by special races such as zombies and vampires, no mutation will occur. Owen, I feel relieved when you say that. It seems that skill 1 is not only overbearing, but also very comprehensive. American TV series system products must be top notch. By the way, Owen, Lisa suddenly said, I have a good friend whose family just came back from Africa and plans to send their daughter, who has been homeschooled, to your school. You should take care of her more. Chapter 20, a blessing, not a curse. Chicago. Federal Social Security Administration, Chicago branch. Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Abby. Oh, by the way, here is a letter to the bureau, and I think you will be very interested in the content inside. What letter? Remember yesterday you and Agent Salinger went to visit the lady named Ginger Gallagher? Of course. In the office, a middle-aged woman just walked in, saw a colleague handing her a letter while taking off the scarf around her neck, chatting casually, but soon her attention was attracted. This Ginger Gallagher, according to the records, is 93 years old and still receiving Social Security, which is very abnormal. At this point, Abby shrugged, and her colleague also smiled in agreement. Longevity has always been linked to living standards, medical conditions, etc., but Ginger Gallagher lives in a slum like the south side of Chicago. The age of 93 is too glaring in the table. Abby continued, I suspected someone had falsely claimed her social security money, so I went to visit her. The first time I went, Ginger Gallagher was not there, and her nephew's family lived in the property under her name. After I agreed on a time, I went to visit again with Agent Salina a few days ago. This time, Ginger Gallagher was there, but she had Alzheimer's disease, so I couldn't continue my questioning. Although there were various photos in the room, I always felt that something was wrong, but because there was no evidence, I had to give up. However, I will go back to visit again in half a year. No need, B. Colleague Tom smiled and said, your guess is right. Take a look at the contents of the envelope. The Gallagher family must have offended someone, and it must be someone very familiar. Ha. Got you. B opened the envelope and exclaimed in surprise, I knew I wouldn't guess wrong. They really have a problem. They dared to falsely claim federal social security benefits for more than 10 years and deliberately deceive federal employees. This time, I want to see what this arrogant Frank Gallagher has to say. A few days ago, when they visited the Gallagher family, Frank ridiculed them in various ways, but it left a deep impression on B. Now that she found out that Frank had committed a federal felony, B was immediately very happy. Moreover, as a social security worker, she used her excellent eyesight to find out this behavior of falsely claiming federal social security funds in the thick forms, which was also a great achievement. Maybe, it's more than that. Colleague Tom reminded, after reading the letter, I checked this Frank Gallagher and found that he was an unemployed alcoholic. Ginger Gallagher's death must be investigated. You mean? B's expression became serious. Falsely claiming federal social security funds and intentionally deceiving federal workers are indeed felonies, but they are very different from intentional murder. That's right. Tom nodded and said, Frank has no source of income and is an alcoholic. If it weren't for Ginger Gallagher's house and social security, he would be a homeless man. For an alcoholic like him, the chances of him killing for money are too high, so if you go again, you must go with Agent Salina and tell him all these guesses to ensure safety. Yeah, you're right. Abby was shocked, put down her bag and sat down, and operated on the computer for a while, and found the news that the local TV station interviewed the nursing home a few days ago. Seeing the face of the old lady in it, she couldn't help but sneered. It turns out that someone is impersonating David Salina. Hello, David, I'm B. Hi, B. What's the matter? It's like this. We visited a few days ago. After B personally confirmed that the content on the envelope was true, he immediately called federal agent David Salina and told him all the circumstances. I know. I will contact the South District Police and verify it immediately. David Salina was shocked. This kind of potential murder case is a case that is easy to make achievements, but the local police must be notified first. Although the FBI is very high ranking, it is not under the jurisdiction of local police. The FBI has no jurisdiction over this kind of case that happens locally and does not cross state lines. Of course, because it was David who provided it to the local police, he will also have a share of the credit when the case is solved. South District Police Station. Clap. Guys, there is a case. The sheriff clapped his hands, attracting the attention of all the police officers, explained the situation, and then assigned tasks. Martin, Tony, you are in charge of this case. Now go and arrest Frank Gallagher and bring him back to the police station. Yes, Sheriff. Yes, Sheriff. A young police officer hesitated. The sheriff ignored him and reminded him, this case is under the attention of federal agents. Frank Gallagher has been found guilty of fraudulently claiming social security benefits and deliberately deceiving federal employees. So what you have to do is to find out the relationship between Frank Gallagher and Ginger Gallagher's death. Don't embarrass our police force. Do you understand? Yes, Sheriff. X2. A police car drove out of the South District Police Station. Tony, be happy. Martin, you know. I know. Black police officer Martin said while driving. Frank Gallagher, the old bastard, is well known in our area. I'm not surprised at all if he does anything bastard. I also know that you like his eldest daughter Fiona. Are you afraid that she will be sad, or are you afraid that she will be hostile to you because you arrested her father? Both. Tony smiled bitterly. As a beastly man, he had little resistance to Fiona, who was beautiful, virtuous, and yet unruly. Fiona had been his goddess for so many years. He didn't care about Frank's life or death at all. He was just worried about the goddess Fiona. Martin shook his head and said, "You are wrong. This matter is a blessing, not a curse, for you and the Gallagher children. We are all familiar with the Gallagher family. Frank will definitely go to jail for life. Emotionally, except for the fourth child Debbie, it doesn't matter to the other Gallagher children. They are just worried about the house being taken away. Fiona may worry that these brothers and sisters she raised will be taken away by the Child Protection Agency because they have no guardian, but in this way, the burden she has been carrying for these years will be put down, and she can enjoy life. And the other children who were taken away may have a different future. Like now, with a pair of bad parents like Frank and Monica, they are old hands at stealing and kidnapping at a young age. If it weren't for giving you face, they would have been arrested and sent to the juvenile detention center. With such a growing environment, 99% of them will die in the slums of the South Side like Frank when they grow up. It's better to be like this now, with everyone dispersed and not burdening each other. Those who are lucky and smart, like Lip Gallagher, have a great chance of completely getting rid of the South District, as long as they don't commit suicide. You're right. Tony admired, but was still a little unhappy. Because once Fiona is no longer burdened by these brothers and sisters, the chance of her getting together with him will be even smaller. Martin glanced at Tony and stopped persuading him. Instead, he smiled and said to himself, "Actually, I'm more interested in who did such a good thing. P.S. Thanks to Sideline C for the first reward." Chapter 21 Heartbeat. Jackson's house. Free food. Free beer. This is really your perfect new home. Lip came to pick up Karen to play and saw Frank lazily sitting on the sofa, drinking beer and watching TV. Karen's mother Sheila walked around from time to time, and the enthusiastic service always felt a bit dazzling, so he couldn't help but say something. "Hey, Kit, watch your tone." Frank crossed his legs, glanced at Lip, and snorted in dissatisfaction. "If it weren't for your father, how would you have the opportunity to ask Karen out?" "What do you mean?" Lip's face suddenly fell. In the war between men and women, he was the first to admit defeat, so he felt a little inferior in his heart. At this moment, he heard Frank's meaningful words, and he was suddenly a little ashamed and angry. Nothing. Frank wanted to say that if he hadn't threatened Owen to disappear, and he hadn't taken action, because Karen was the woman Lip liked, there would be nothing for Lip to do now. However, seeing that Lip was getting angry and opened his mouth, he didn't say these words in the end. He was very smart. Not only was he concerned about Lip's face, but also because he knew the position of Owen in Karen's heart. In just a few days, he heard Karen repeating Owen's name at Sheila's house, just like a repeater. The word Owen made him annoyed. Therefore, he also understood that once his threat to Owen was exposed, Karen would definitely turn against him. Except for taking painkillers every night, this place was simply his dream home. He didn't dare to bet that after completely angering Karen, Sheila would choose to stand on his side. When the father and son were staring at each other, Karen finally came down from the stairs. "Hi, Karen." "Hi, Lip. Wow, you look so beautiful today." "Thank you. Are you ready?" "Yeah." "Lip, there's some chicken at home." Sheila poked her head out of the kitchen. "No, Sheila." Lip smiled and declined. "Karen and I will go to the burger restaurant." "Okay, have fun." "We will." Frank watched Lip take the young and beautiful Karen out and thought of the scene when Lip confronted him just now. He was furious and shouted, "I want you to send Karen back before 10 o'clock in the evening, and you are not allowed to touch her below the waist." "Hey, Tony, why are you here?" The answer from outside was not Lip's. "I have something to talk to Frank about." Tony's voice came over. "What do you want to talk to me about?" Frank got up and walked out. If it were another policeman, he might be a little alert, but he thought he had Tony in his hands. Who told Tony to miss his eldest daughter? In the past few years, Tony had also wiped his ass many times, and they were all old acquaintances. "What are you doing?" As soon as he stepped out of the door, his eyes blurred, and he was pounced on by a real black shadow. He fell to the ground with his face, and was pressed into the snow. There was a click. Although Frank could not see, He was very sensitive and familiar with the sound and touch of handcuffs. It was nothing else, just practice. Frank, your fraudulent collection of federal social security funds and deliberate deception of federal employees have been exposed. You are also suspected of the murder of Gingy Gallagher. Here is an arrest warrant. Take you back to the police station now. You have the right to remain silent, but everything you say will be used as evidence in court. The black police officer Martin led the arrest operation with sympathy. Oh, shit. Frank cursed in his heart, but he refused to admit defeat. He struggled hard and cursed, "You are framing me and deliberately taking revenge. I will sue you and that damn woman from the Social Security Bureau. Tony, you son of a bitch, you actually framed me. You will never fuck my daughter again in your life." Lip was completely confused, and his face was as hen, because he knew that the first two charges alone were enough to put Frank in jail for life. What's more, he was one of the accomplices in deliberately deceiving federal personnel. He and Ian were both high school students over 16 years old, so they might also be implicated. Tony. Lip, don't blame me. Tony blushed slightly, shook his head and sighed. I can't do anything about it. You should go back and discuss it with Fiona first. You may be summoned by then. Ahem. Come and give me a hand, Tony. Martin coughed lightly, interrupting Tony's embarrassment. The two of them took the struggling Frank into the police car and drove to the police station. Frank. Sheila stood in the room, watching Frank being taken away, holding her chest and screaming in pain. Unfortunately, her pollution panic disorder was too serious, and she didn't dare to go out at all. She could only watch her happiness go away. Not far away, Eddie Jackson, who had just returned from get off work, stood in the snow, watching this scene quietly, with a happy smile on his lips, which happened to be seen by Frank, who was lying on the glass and looking out of the passing police car. FK. I thought we were friends, but I didn't expect you to dare to frame me like this. Eddie Jackson, I will never let you go. Frank's roar was clearly heard by Eddie. Eddie was stunned. He didn't do this. He was laughing so happily because Frank ate his food, lived in his house, and even slept with him. He acted indifferent before and kindly reminded Frank to take painkillers in advance. That was because he had no choice but to give up. But this definitely didn't mean that he and Frank were friends. Are you kidding? He is not a masochist. How could he be friends with Frank? FKY. Thinking of this, Eddie cursed at the passing police car. You dead bastard. Go pick up soap in the prison. Don't worry, with Sheila's experience in training you, you will definitely be able to get by in prison in this life. Old bastard, enjoy it. If you still want to get out, dream on. The next day, North Shore Public High School. Outside the school gate, a beautiful girl dressed simply said goodbye to her parents, turned around and prepared to walk towards the school. Be careful. But when she turned around and had not taken a step, she was grabbed by a hand. A strong force pulled her back. A gentle male voice came into her ears. As she turned and retreated, a yellow color flew past her. It turned out to be a school bus that brushed past her. Ah. The girl was a little dazed, lying in the boy's arms. It was not until she heard her mother's terrified voice that she came to her senses. She looked up and saw a handsome Asian boy looking down at her with a smile on his face. Thank you. My name is Katie Helen. Owen Lee. You're welcome. It's my responsibility to take care of you. What? The girl's face turned red. She was taken to Africa by her parents and lived there for 12 years. The only time she was moved was when she was 5 years old, but she was ruthlessly rejected by the black boy who confessed his love to her. Now, her heart is beating fast again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 Mean Girls. North Shore Public High School. Schoolgate. Oh my god. Katie, are you okay? I scared you to death. The girl's mother ran over, took the girl's hand, looked her up and down, and was terrified. I'm fine. Katie's heart was pounding at the moment, and there was no room for fear. She comforted her softly. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I will pay attention to safety in the future. Hi, hello. I will take care of Katie. Owen let go of Katie and greeted her with a smile. Thank you, thank you. Katie's parents thanked them repeatedly, but then they were stunned and hesitated. By the way, who are you? Hi. Linda. Chip. Long time no see. Lisa. Ah. Old friends reunited. Although the children were all grown up, Lisa and Linda, one was a part-time writer and the other was a zoologist. They were both cultural people and had a good life. They kept their childishness and interest for a longer time. Suddenly, a sound of nails scratching the blackboard echoed in Owen's ears. Why are you here? After a long time, the two people who were screaming and hugging finally separated, but they were still holding hands. Linda asked first. It's all because of you. Lisa smiled and said, I heard that you came back from Africa, and Linda became a tenured professor at the University of Chicago. I was going to ask you to get together in advance, but I knew you just came back and had a lot of things to do, so I didn't bother you. I asked Owen to check Katie's enrollment time and came here to give you a surprise. Surprise? What a surprise. Linda shook Lisa's hand tightly, but her eyes looked at Owen, and she was surprised. Who is this? Owen is a pure Chinese, so Linda naturally didn't think he was Lisa's child. This is Owen Lee, the child of a good friend of mine, and now he lives with me. Lisa introduced him briefly. Oh, hello, Owen. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much just now. Linda was able to obtain the title of tenured professor at the University of Chicago. She must be a genius with a high IQ. Without Lisa's explanation, she understood the relationship between Owen and Lisa. You're welcome. Owen smiled brightly. This is what Aunt Lisa told me a long time ago. She asked me to take good care of Katie, Uncle Chip and Aunt Linda. Don't worry. I know Katie has been studying at home and has never been to school. I will take good care of her. Great. Linda was overjoyed. She pulled Katie over and told her, I was worried that you would be bullied at school. Now it's good. With Owen taking care of you, you will adapt quickly. Yes. Katie nodded shyly. It's getting late. Let the children go in. Lisa reminded. Yes, yes. You can't be late on the first day of school. Linda agreed. Katie, let's go. Owen called. Okay. The two walked side by side towards the school, leaving Lisa to greet Linda and Chip. Katie, HMM. On the way to the classroom, Owen recalled the plot and began to share his experience with Katie to prevent her from having those unpleasant experiences again. There are still big differences between school education and family education, especially in terms of habits. The first point is that there are many people. I see. Katie smiled confidently. I'm looking forward to meeting my classmates. Haha. Owen shook his head and smiled. I believe it, but you still don't have too high expectations. Why? Katie was puzzled. You live in Africa. You should know that there are all kinds of birds in the big forest, right? Owen asked instead of answering. HMM. Katie was startled and looked around at the strange students around her and said with some sudden realization, you mean my classmates will not welcome me? Smart. Owen snapped his fingers and laughed. Not only that, but many classmates will bully you because you are a freshman and they like to bully freshmen. If you also show some habits of family education, then this bullying will expand. But I don't know which habits are different. Katie was a little worried. Don't worry. Owen's good brotherly began to trick. After knowing that you were coming, I deliberately learned about family education. In my opinion, the main difference is the rules. Rules. Katie looked confused. She had never been to school, and although she was smart enough, she had no intuitive impression of the rules that Owen talked about. Yeah. Owen smiled. At home, you are more free, but at school, you must follow the rules. For example, during class, you are not allowed to do other actions, and you can't eat and study at the same time. Ah, can't? Katie looked surprised. Of course not. Owen said affirmatively. You can't go to the toilet whenever you want, because all of this will affect the teacher and other students. In the past, you were taught by Aunt Linda at home, and it didn't matter what you did, but after going to school, these are the rules. Think about it. When you are concentrating on class, the teacher suddenly leaves without saying a word. Doesn't your state come to a halt all of a sudden? and there are so many classmates, and everyone is eating in class. Wouldn't the smell and sound distract you? So that's how it is. Katie understood as soon as she heard it and couldn't help but feel a little uneasy and said, anything else? Of course there is. Owen reminded. For example, you have to sit in your seat in class. You can't walk around at will. You have to do whatever the teacher asks you to do. Don't make unnecessary movements. And pay attention to the pen you use for writing. Try to use a black pen instead of a green pen. Of course there are many other things, but these are minor problems, and you will know when you are reminded. Lunch in the school cafeteria is the most critical step to integrate into the school. This is also the time when you feel the most uncomfortable and excluded. But don't worry, I will take you first, and you will get used to it after a few times. Thank you, Owen. Katie was grateful. You're welcome. Go to class. If you have any questions, you can ask me at lunch. Owen's face was sunny and warm, and his eyes were so gentle when he looked at Katie. This was related to Lisa, but more importantly, Owen had recognized that this Katie Helen in front of him was the heroine in the movie Mean Girls. Beep beep. There seemed to be a horn in his mind, reminding him that this was different from those slutty girls outside. It was definitely another goddess driver card after Karen Jackson. Thinking of this, Owen's smile became brighter. Seeing this smile, Katie's heart began to beat again. She thought to herself, wow, this little brother is so handsome. He smiles at me like this. Could it be that he likes me? How should I respond? Oh my god, I have no experience. Oh, I know this kind of situation in the animal world. Humans are also animals. Chapter 23. He is a legend. North Shore Public High School. Ding-a-ling. Just as Katie was struggling with her feelings and was about to respond with a woe sound according to common sense in the animal world, the school bell rang. Going quickly, see you at noon, Owen said, and left quickly. Katie breathed a sigh of relief for some reason, and then recalled the animal-like response she almost made on impulse just now, and suddenly felt ashamed. Although she had been taking classes at home, her parents were zoologists, so she was very familiar with animals, and humans were indeed an animal, but this definitely did not mean that she did not know the difference between humans and animals. That was a close call. Katie thought as she walked into the classroom, if I had really done that, I would have scared Owen. Oh, God. It's so embarrassing to think about it now. Hi. Katie looked up as she walked into the classroom and saw a tall girl standing on the podium. She was a little dazed and immediately thought that the other person was a teacher. She raised her hand and said, I don't know if anyone has mentioned me to you. My name is Katie Helen, and I'm a new student. The tall girl looked Katie up and down and said coldly, if you talk to me again, I'll kick your ass. Katie was stunned, but fortunately with Owen's reminder, she was mentally prepared. She smiled bitterly and let go, but she was also extra careful. Both her parents are high IQ geniuses, and her IQ is also very high. She is very good at studying, so during class, while listening to the class, she still has enough energy to pay attention to all the details in the class. After observing for a few classes, she found that Owen's previous reminders were indeed very accurate. Lunchtime. School cafeteria. Katie looked up with her plate in hand. She saw that the restaurant was full of students, all sitting together, eating and chatting. When she looked at the empty seats, those who felt her gaze either put their bags on the empty seats, shook their heads, or glared at them, making clear gestures of rejection. How is it? Owen's voice sounded behind her, which made her suddenly feel very happy. Are you still adapting? Not bad. Katie turned around in surprise and smiled at Owen, but thank you for your reminder. It really saved me a lot of trouble. You're welcome. Follow me. Owen smiled slightly and took Katie to a table with an empty seat. Senior Owen, here. Owen, this way. Owen, sit here. Something that made Katie stunned happened. When Owen walked by, the crowd that was noisy just now showed goodwill and greeted him enthusiastically, wishing to pull Owen over to sit. Some even pushed their companions away because there was only one empty seat next to them to make room. Katie, let's sit here. Okay. Katie followed Owen's actions in a daze and sat down in an empty seat that was deliberately made available. she saw the two girls who had quietly made way for her seat because Owen nodded to them in a cool manner, and they were so excited that they couldn't even hold the unfinished food in their hands. Is he the king? Katie, who had been dealing with animals since she was a child, had the first thought in her mind. It was a simple lunch that Katie finished in full view of everyone. Yes, although she had never learned Chinese, she miraculously understood this word. Too many eyes were on her. After lunch, the last class in the afternoon. Katie, right? Come on, sit here. As soon as Katie entered the classroom, she saw a girl who was dressed very wildly in non-mainstream, and a tall, strong but quite gay boy, staring at her. When she looked over, he immediately stretched out his hand to greet her. Oh, thank you. This was the first classmate besides Owen who showed kindness to her, which made Katie very happy. Hi, my name is Janice Ian, and this is Damien. The rude girl introduced them briefly, and then gossiped, what is your relationship with Owen Lee? As soon as this was said, Katie felt that the whole classroom suddenly became quiet. Everyone looked over, and waited quietly for Katie's answer. We are friends. Katie said honestly, the parents of both parties are good friends. I just came back from Africa, and have never been to school, so Aunt Lisa asked Owen to take care of me. Old friends. Janice dragged her voice and said meaningfully, bang, bang, bang. A series of banging sounds attracted Katie's attention. She looked up and saw a black boy with a sad face banging his head against the desk. What's wrong with him? Don't mind him. Janice glanced at the black boy and explained clearly, his name is Kevin Apple. He is a nerd, a member of the North Shore Middle School Mathematical Olympiad team. He probably saw that you are good at math, beautiful, and from Africa, so he wanted to take advantage of you. But now he heard that you have such a good relationship with Owen, he just gave up. Huh? Why? Katie looked puzzled. You don't know? Janice looked at Katie in surprise. Seeing that Katie was really confused, she immediately realized that she really didn't know Owen's long real name, and smiled playfully. He is a legend. Legend? Katie's heart moved. Yes. Janice nodded affirmatively and asked, do you know about the homecoming dance and the annual graduation dance? Yes, I do. Katie nodded quickly. These two dances are the most important dances for American students. Boys need to wear formal clothes and girls need to wear dresses. They also have to pay nearly $100 for tickets to enter. Many girls have to prepare for these two dances several months in advance and work part-time to earn money for tickets and rent dresses just to make a stunning appearance at the dance. Popular boys and girls are fighting for the title of king and queen of the dance. Those who have mimes at home directly use various gifts to solicit votes because the king and queen are selected by all the students attending the dance. How could Katie not have heard of such a famous dance? Owen must be the king of the dance. Katie thought she knew the truth. No. Janice smiled and said, in fact, every time I encounter such a dance, Owen gets the least votes. Why? Katie couldn't understand. It's very simple. Janice laughed. Owen is the public enemy of all boys. Except for gays like Damien. Almost no boys will choose him. Among the girls, except for the queen candidates, no girls are willing to vote for him because that will only give those queen candidates the opportunity to get close to Owen. Therefore, he cannot become the king of the ball, but he is far more like a king than those kings wearing crowns. Tell me, is he a legend? P.S. Thanks to bookfriend 2019010510-911628 for the reward. Chapter 24, Youth Royal Family, North Shore Public High School. So, he is indeed a legend. Katie murmured. After Janice's reminder, she finally remembered that at noon in the school cafeteria, all the girls greeted Owen enthusiastically, while most of the boys were envious and jealous. But why? One question was answered, and a new question arose. Although Katie had never been in a relationship, she had many friends in Africa, and knew basic common sense. Owen was indeed handsome, and because of his routine, Katie's heart was beating, but it was definitely not to the extent that all the girls in the school were crazy. Yes, in Katie's eyes, those girls were so crazy that she felt like she was back in the African animal world. Janice laughed. According to reliable information, Owen is gifted and exudes an oriental mysterious aura, which has a fatal attraction to most girls. Really? Katie thought of her own heartbeat and subconsciously agreed with this statement, but she didn't know that she understood it in the wrong direction. One is in heaven, the other is in hell. The chat ended here. After class, Katie was stopped by the African boy. "Hi, Katie, I'm Kevin Apple." "Hi. Owen asked me to take you to the mathematical Olympiad team." The African boy smiled and said, "He said you are good at math, and our mathematical Olympiad team just happens to be short of a female player, and you are the most suitable." "Okay." Katie happily agreed and followed the African boy to the classroom, where the mathematical Olympiad team was. On the way, "Katie, you are from Africa, right?" "Yes, my parents are zoologists. They stayed in Africa for 12 years and just moved back recently." "Great, then you should like those friends in Africa, right?" "Yes, I have a lot of friends in Africa. What do you think of me? Let's go out and play together after the mathematical Olympiad team training is over." "Oh, are you asking me out?" Katie finally reacted. "Yes, what do you think?" The African boy raised his eyebrows, hoping that Katie's aesthetic taste would be more like his type because of so many years in Africa. There are too few girls who are good at studying and beautiful, and this type is the easiest type for the academic nerd to approach. Even though he knew that Katie and Owen were related, he couldn't help but make a move. Katie lowered her head slightly, looked at the African boy, and shook her head apologetically, saying, "Sorry, I have to go to Owen's house tonight. Our two families are having a party." Click. "Hey, did you hear anything?" "No. No way. You didn't hear such a loud heartbreak?" Ha ha ha. Several boys rushed over from behind, pointing at the African boy and teasing him. It was obvious that they had just eavesdropped from behind Katie and the others. The African boy's face turned red and black, but fortunately it was completely invisible. After a while of embarrassment, he brought Katie, who looked apologetic, to the classroom of the mathematical Olympiad team. Clap, clap, clap. A round of applause rang out, and it was Owen who led the other two members of the mathematical Olympiad team to applaud Katie. "Katie, welcome to join the North Shore Middle School mathematical Olympiad team. Your joining will make our mathematical Olympiad team stronger." Owen clapped his hands and laughed. "Wow, great. When you challenge other high school mathematical Olympiad teams in Illinois in the future, the prize money will be doubled. The mathematical Olympiad competition not only increases credits, but also has prize money to win. Owen and his team don't have to think about the national finals, because there will be many LV5 level talented players gathered there, but they can strive for the state finals. Gender equality is the political correctness of the United States and even the world. In mathematics, there are few female geniuses, so if there is a female member among the contestants, the prize money can be doubled after winning. As for the king leading the bronze, just find a girl to fill the number? That's impossible. Because during the competition, there is a death elimination, and both sides can designate the other party's members to participate. Once it comes to this stage, the bronze can never become the king. "Thank you, I will work hard." Katie was also very excited. She is very talented and likes math very much because she thinks math is a truth that applies everywhere. "Very good, let's start practicing now." Owen commanded as the captain. The mathematical Olympiad team selected members with mathematical talent, but without a lot of targeted practice. Don't think about standing out, because the other opponents are the same. 2 hours later, after the practice, Owen took Katie away, leaving the African boy with a look of disappointment. At night, Samson's house. A reunion party with friends. Friendly and cheerful, especially after Katie mentioned Owen's help to her. The atmosphere was extremely harmonious. In the eyes of Katie's parents, Owen, the child of a good friend, has a high IQ, good deck, good looks, and takes good care of their daughter. It is simply full of advantages. They repeatedly asked Owen to take care of Katie. After the party ended and Katie's family left, Lisa glanced at Owen and reminded him again, "Owen, Katie is a good girl, and she is Linda's daughter. You know what to do, right?" "Yes." Owen nodded and said, "I will take good care of her." "Humph." Lisa snorted, "You know that's not what I mean. You must take care of her, but you can only take care of her at school. Don't take care of her in bed, understand?" "Ahem." Jack heard it and almost laughed out loud, but when Lisa's sharp eyes swept over, the strong desire to survive turned the laughter into a cough. Aunt Lisa, I understand. Owen's mouth twitched, and he agreed helplessly. The next day, the second day of Katie's enrollment, because of Lisa's repeated warnings, Owen had to suspend his routine and did not take further action. Lisa and Jack were good to him, and he didn't want to make them sad. According to the system, this is a positive universe with the Big Bang Theory as the singularity, integrating dozens of urban comedies and American TV series, and in the future, you can freely travel back and forth to the Marvel movie universe, DC movie universe, vampire movie universe, Fast and Furious crime universe and other negative universes. There are many goddesses who meet the requirements of the driver card. There is no need to hurt the hearts of those who really care about him for Katie alone. Katie was dragged by his new friends Janice and Damien to skip a physiotherapy class and chat on the lawn of the playground. Look. At this time, a group of students in sports were walked out of the classroom and walked towards the playground. They were obviously preparing for outdoor physical education. Damien was sharp-eyed and reminded them immediately, the youth royal family is coming. Katie was stunned and looked in the direction of Damien's finger. She saw several young and beautiful girls with beautiful figures slowly walking into the playground surrounded by people. Chapter 25, Best Friend Guidelines. North Shore Public High School. Playground. Young Royals? Katie was surprised by the resounding name. Yes, Janice said disdainfully, a bunch of self-righteous bitches who came up with a self-righteous name. If North Shore High School is compared to a magazine, then Young Royals is the eternal cover of the magazine. Damien said enviously, they are the forefront of fashion in North Shore High School, and everyone is paying attention to their every move. Yeah. Janice pulled a handful of grass and said angrily, some idiots are proud of being punched in the face by them. So exaggerated. Katie was shocked. Aha. Janice snorted, did you see that girl? Katie looked in the direction Janice pointed, and what came into view was a large truck. Standing next to the truck was a blonde girl, who had a round neck sportswear that she had worn as a low-cut dress. Yeah. Her name is Karen Smith, and she would be the dumbest girl you have ever met. Janice chuckled. Damien and she sat next to each other in English class last year, and she asked Damien how to spell orange. Haha. Although Katie knew it was a bit bad, she couldn't help laughing. She looks good. Yeah, you can tell at a glance that she is the kind of person who has a lot of tolerance. That's true. Janice watched Karen Smith clapping her hands to catch the ball, but her movements were slow, and she opened her hands clumsily. The boy hit her chest with the football and she bounced out. She didn't seem angry, but still smiled. She couldn't help but say speechlessly, in this respect, she is indeed the most tolerant. The younger Latin beauty over there. Janice pointed to another girl and introduced. Her name is Gretchen Venus. Her family is very rich. She knows everyone's gossip and privacy. See her thick curly hair. It's full of secrets. Katie covered her mouth and laughed. Well, the last person to appear is Regina George, the reincarnation of the devil. Janice narrowed her eyes and looked at the girl who was carried into the playground by the boys. There was a different kind of chill in her voice. Don't be fooled by her. She looks normal, but secretly she is an extremely selfish, extremely sinister, and extremely dissolute girl. It can even be said that there are no words in the world that can describe her. She is the real devil. She is the queen and the star. Damien added, the other two girls are just her followers. Be careful of the youth royal family. Janice concluded, don't be fooled by them, otherwise you will be miserable. Yeah. Katie nodded and said, I will pay attention. I don't think they will notice my ha. Before she finished speaking, she was interrupted by the laughter of Janice and Damien. What's wrong? Katie was puzzled. Nothing. Janice shook her head and smiled. You will know when the time comes. 3 days later. Lunchtime. School cafeteria. Owen had something to do today, so he didn't have dinner with Katie. Katie was about to go to Janice's table with her plate in hand, but when she passed the table of the young royal trio, they called her. Hi. New here, come and sit down. Regina George, the queen bee sitting in the middle, waved at Katie with a smile on her face. Don't leave, seriously, sit down. Katie hesitated for a moment, feeling that it would be too rude to leave immediately, so she sat across from them. "So, you are from Africa?" The queen bee looked at Katie and smiled playfully. "Yeah." Katie nodded honestly. "Have you never been to school before?" "Yes. Home education. It sounds interesting." "Thank you. You are also very beautiful, really beautiful." "Thank you. So, do you agree? Do you think you are beautiful?" Just when Katie was happy about the queen bee's praise, the queen bee suddenly asked Katie back, which made Katie confused. This question was obviously unfriendly. "Haha, I was joking." The queen bee looked around, exchanged a meaningful look with the two followers, and then smiled. "Your bracelet is very beautiful." "Thank you." Katie's emotions were constantly provoked by the queen bee, and she could only smile foolishly. "This is made by my mother. You know what? I have a suggestion." The queen bee smiled and said, "No one else has this opportunity. We want to invite you to join us for lunch this week." "Oh, this?" Katie instinctively wanted to refuse. "Then it's settled." The queen bee interrupted Katie directly and said affirmatively, "See you tomorrow." The next day, lunchtime. Katie wore pink clothes as requested by the queen bee, had lunch with them, and listened to Gretchen talking about the rules between best friends. You can't buy any clothes without your best friend's consent, even if they look good on you. "You can't buy any clothes?" Katie said in surprise. "Of course." Gretchen nodded affirmatively, then looked at Queen Bee cautiously, and forced a smile. "It's the same for boys. Maybe you think you like a boy, but you can't make a mistake." Queen Bee winked at Karen Smith, and stood up and said, "I'll go get the cheese fries." Stupid Karen Smith took a while to remember what they had agreed on. "I heard that you and Owen have a good relationship. Are you in a relationship?" "No." Katie smiled shyly. "That's good." Gretchen patted her chest, exhaled heavily, leaned her head over, and said in a low voice, "Owen is Regina's ex-boyfriend. 2 months ago, when Owen dumped Regina, she almost collapsed." Katie's face rose. Gretchen continued as if she hadn't seen it. "You should never chase after your bestie's ex-boyfriend. This is the highest rule between besties." Gretchen paused slightly and looked at Karen Smith, and both lowered their heads in guilt. They still had something in their hearts that they hadn't said. Beware of fire, theft, and besties. In fact, Regina and Owen were not boyfriend and girlfriend at all. Like them, and like most other girls in the same school, who were not bad looking, they were just benefits. If Regina wasn't too domineering, they wouldn't have to be so sneaky. "I want to lose weight, so I have to eat low-calorie foods." Queen Bee came over, raised the cheese fries in her hand, and saw that Katie's face was not very good, so she raised her lips. "So, Katie, I heard that you and Owen have a good relationship. Did he mention me?" Katie forced a smile. "No." "Oh," Queen Bee said half truthfully and half falsely, "when you accompanied me to watch the moon in the convertible, you called me sweetie. Now that we are just breaking up temporarily, you have forgotten me completely. You are so mean." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.